It would have counted. Offensive rebound by Smith, and she's got a new.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
They brought in Doyle at fullback. They line up out of the eye. Play fake, Bohannon. Touchdown. Boyle, a receiving touchdown now. What doesn't he do?
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Throws it down the field. It's caught at the 10, and this game is over. The Cowboys win it. C.D. Lamb.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Kenjo, good feed, and there is Thamba.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, we're all back together again in the studio on this frigid, cold, and windy 22-mile-an-hour winds gusting throughout central Texas. And here we go up until 6 o'clock. Paul Catalina back today. To my left, Craig Smoak again. I'm David Smoak, and we are here until 6 o'clock. And a couple of things. No doubt that Texas Tech went into the Big 12 tournament with a chip on their shoulder after what they did to Iowa State. Kansas cruises, we knew that. And Oklahoma buried Baylor from outside the three-point arc, and now they'll get, of course, the next round against Texas Tech tonight. It was, to me, and I've seen a little bit of this, well, it's a good loss. No, there's never a good loss. Now, can they still remain a number one seed? Absolutely, because Texas A&M beat Auburn today in the SEC quarterfinals, and Auburn was like right behind Baylor or in that next rung. Kentucky still looming. So that might have done Baylor a huge favor today with the A&M win against Auburn in the SEC quarterfinals. But here we go, the semifinals in the Big 12 tonight. And women, Baylor, 74-33 against Oklahoma State, up by 1,000. Paul, what was the first quarter score?
23-0.
Baylor women, 23-0 at the end of the first quarter. They are cruising, as you would expect, against Oklahoma State.
Yeah, to the Baylor men, I do think that Kentucky losing and Duke losing would probably solidify them on the one line for good. I mean, like, if Kentucky and Duke both lost this weekend, then that would mean, all three of those teams lost. If Kansas lost, that might help them as well. But if any of those teams lose and don't make the finals and don't win their conference tournament, then everybody kind of goes into the weekend and comes out the same way that they were to start out. That's what happened with Auburn. So Auburn loses. If Kentucky and Duke lose, then nothing's really changed.
Auburn was a 2 seed in the Joe Lunardi Midwest behind Kansas. They lost, so that helps Kansas and others in front of them. And then Jerry Palm, CBS Sports, a little bit different. He had Auburn slightly in front of Kansas, and now that might change again. Kansas tonight, of course, has their game coming up as well. Gonzaga, Arizona, Baylor, Auburn, or Gonzaga, Arizona, Baylor, Kansas. Kentucky is still looming. Duke's still looming, and we'll see what happens. But let's talk about last night. First of all, Texas Tech crushed Iowa State. But Baylor, Craig Smoak, I saw a sense of urgency. Oklahoma has to win this thing. They have to kind of win another couple of games, although they've now had some quality wins that might put them in the conversation. But last night, Baylor, 3 of 20-something from the threes, gave up 3 consecutive layups when they had gotten back in the game. I thought it was a very, very disappointing performance for them.
Yeah, I did too. I said all yesterday I didn't expect them to lose this game. I know that Oklahoma went in a little bit hot, but there's nothing I've seen this year to make me think that Baylor's not going to beat Oklahoma. In a Big 12 tournament setting, I realize that maybe it's a little bit more important for them than it was for Baylor, but it's not like Baylor didn't have anything to play for, so I didn't expect them to go out there and, be lethargic or have the appearance of not being ready to play. But bottom line, it was Oklahoma had to have that, and they played like a team that had to have that, and they played, like the better team overall. And Baylor went out there like a team that, I don't know, either felt like, hey, we're already in, we're good, we don't need this, or just didn't have a very good game. However you want to paint it, I don't really care because the result's the same anyway, so it doesn't matter. But, that was not a good look. That was an ugly game for them. And they're very fortunate that they're in such a secure spot that they didn't have to have a better performance than that. Now, if it does cost them a 1 seed, then I think there's probably going to be some hindsight and going like, geez, we might have screwed that one up a little bit. Or maybe, the 2 seed's not such a bad thing either. Either way, I wasn't going to try to jump on Twitter last night like a bunch of different people did and say, like, that was a good loss. Like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree at all that was a good loss. If that's what you want to say to make you feel better, that's fine. And I understand the reasoning is, okay, well, they get some extra rest. And this team does need extra rest. Like, that is valid. They do need extra rest. But you should have all been saying that before the game then, if that was that much of a, we didn't want to, that we didn't need to win that game. No, people were excited for that game. People were excited to see them try and go not only win the regular season, but then turn around and go do something they haven't done and win the Big 12 tournament. And so, there was kind of this built-in excuse if they lost, of like, well, we're good anyways. But they wanted to, people wanted them to win that game. And so I don't believe for 1 second they went out there not trying to win that game. I just think they played very poorly. And you know what? Hopefully it doesn't cost them.
This is, when we were talking about this earlier in the week, and I mentioned Oklahoma essentially has to win this thing. Maybe not win it, but at least get to Saturday to get in, but probably win it. And, we all kind of agreed that we don't think that they're going to win it. But I do think that being the first opponent for a team that has to win it to get in is the scariest position to be, because that's when they're going to have their best momentum. That's when they're going to have their best, let's go out there and win one for the Gipper kind of attitude, and they're rested. So they're not tired for playing today and then having to play the next day. I would rather play the team that has to win it today, on Friday. I would rather be the team who gets to play them on Friday, especially a team that's squarely on the bubble like Oklahoma is. Now, if your team's not on the, if it was West Virginia that got hot all of a sudden and you're playing them, I'd be like, okay, whatever, play them on Friday. This is the third game, but because they weren't going unless they won it absolutely won it. They were not on the bubble. They're off the bubble. But Oklahoma they live on the bubble. And
all right. Yeah, no, you're right. And that they had to win. In fact, here's their head coach, Porter Moser, after the game when he was trying to, as you know, what any coach would do that's right either on the inside or on the outside looking in, what he had to say about Oklahoma's resume.
Strength of schedule. Look at our net. Look at every rating on that. How many teams have 3 or 4 wins in the top 4 line? We just knocked off one of the top teams in the country on the 1 line. Could have very well been in there. So I know our case for our team. We're in the hardest conference in the country. We have the hardest schedule in the country. We schedule up. Our ratings, our KenPom, our net, everything is elite. So I'll be ready to talk on that. We're focused on winning this tournament. We're focusing on that, and that's what our mind and our focus is on.
All right, so there's that. And as of earlier today, by the way, KenPom, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Arizona, Baylor. Now, that doesn't affect who gets in the tournament or who is also – it helps. But it doesn't mean that's going to set up the number 1 seeds because Houston's a 5th overall ranked KenPom, and Houston might be a 5th or 6th seed. They did win today, beat Cincinnati, a future Big 12 opponent, against one another in that game in the American Conference. But bottom line is Oklahoma torched Baylor's defense. Torched them. 11 threes and you hit 3? Yeah, okay. One thing about Baylor this year, when you look at their losses, boy, they stunk it up against Kansas. But Alabama raced right by them. We saw what Texas Tech did twice. Obviously, the first game was very tight in Waco, though, and we saw a couple of the games. The Oklahoma State game was bang, bang, but that had a little stench to it to me. It's not panic time. That doesn't mean you can't still get on a run. In fact, probably will. But that, to me, did look like one team that had to win, one team that knew they didn't have to win, but Baylor was playing for possibly locking up a number 1 seed, and that in itself is enough to play better than you did last night.
That game has a cousin early in the season. It's called Oklahoma State, because very similar to how it went where Oklahoma State played really well and really hard, but Oklahoma wasn't doing a lot of things last night that would make me think that they were going to out and out win that game. I mean, they made some shots, but early on they weren't draining it like crazy. Baylor just wasn't hitting open shots and clanging things out. And the 2 factors in those 2 games were Adam Flagler played his worst game of the season to that point against Oklahoma State, and then he played his worst game of the season last night against Oklahoma when they really did need Adam Flagler to have a bad game. He only scored 2 points, and it was in the first half. In a moment, you're like, okay, well, here he goes, and then he didn't really shoot much after that. They did a great job on Adam Flagler. He had a rough night, and it really affected him. Yeah, 1 of 10.
Really 1 of 16, right? And counting his 3-point.
No, it counts in the overall.
Okay,
1 of 10, 0 for 6, I think, or whatever.
Yeah,
it was.
0 for 6 from 3.
From 3. From Rich Boone, is it better for Baylor, seeding-wise, if Kansas gets knocked out, preferably by TCU or Oklahoma? Maybe it's a stretch. If Tech won the Big 12, could they elevate to a number 1 seed? No, Tech, even though that would be 2-1 against Kansas, that means 2-0 against Baylor and 2-0 against Texas. Texas Tech is in that 3-4 discussion, but they pummeled Iowa State. That game was over very early, and unlike Baylor on Saturday when they were up 27-4 against Iowa State, Texas Tech took their hand, their foot, their elbow, and cracked the neck of Iowa State, never gave them a chance to breathe. Kansas is already on one of the bracketologies a 1 seed. In the other, they're right behind Auburn, who lost again earlier this afternoon to Texas A&M. Scotty B, I say Oklahoma to make the Big 12 look better in terms of teams making the NCAA tournament if they were to run the table. If they run the table, it's not going to knock out Iowa State. It's not going to knock out TCU. And it's surely not going to knock out Baylor, Kansas, Texas Tech, or Texas. So maybe if they run the table, the Big 12 knocks somebody else out of the tournament and ends up with 7 teams, but that remains to be seen. Iowa's rolling again. Man, they're scoring a bunch of points, 78-63 right now. Iowa in the Big 10 quarterfinals leads Rutgers with 3 minutes left. From Jerry, my dark horse is going to win. And I don't remember, Jerry, is that Oklahoma? Is that TCU? Jerry, let us know. I don't remember exactly which one that was. All right, now, so that's the bracketology. Auburn losing to A&M, as I mentioned. Houston winning against Cincinnati, that's a big time for them. They're gonna be in the tournament no matter what. Illinois lost to Indiana. Indiana's trying to sneak in. How about this one? Louisiana Tech 42 and North Texas 36 in the Conference USA semifinals. Grant McCaslin and North Texas pretty much out now. Probably a one-bid conference, no matter their record. 42. It was 21-13 La Tech at halftime.
This is why the conference tournaments are both equally exciting and stupid. You have a team that won the conference title in the regular season outright, and what do they get for that? Nothing.
Nothing.
Need to get that West Coast Conference bracket.
Yeah.
Where you have the kind of the setup for a team like that to advance. But yeah, that's really disappointing. I mean, I'm sure there's some sulking going on over in Denton right now, or just across that North Texas fan base, and especially on the ride home. That we talked to them here recently, and they had a good team, but that's just the razor thin margin for error for some of the smaller schools. There's only so many spots, and the way it's set up, you got to be pretty much perfect with what you're asked to do, and so very unfortunate for them. That's tough to see that loss.
Yeah, the West Coast Conference has the Karate Kid 3 rules, where since Daniel won the tournament before, he only has to fight in the championship round.
Some conferences, don't you go like straight to the championship game or the semifinal?
Yeah,
then they Gonzaga and St. Mary's.
Yeah.
Scott Drew, after the game last night, I think, talking about how this may affect their seeding, I think a lot depends on the other teams and what happens with them. It takes us controlling our own destiny away. And as teams, players, you always want to have the opportunity to control your own destiny. We will see what happens from here. He mentioned the quad one wins. Non-conference schedule, of course, is elite. But they still might have to wait to see what happens with Kentucky or Duke or somebody else. And so tonight, Oklahoma and Texas Tech in the nightcap, Kansas and TCU play in the other semifinal game.
Baylor women have gone final. They have advanced to the next round of the Big 12 women's tournament, 76-36. Final there.
They're beating the living, out of people. They are killing people. They now will play Oklahoma, who beat Kansas earlier. That's interesting because Oklahoma's beaten Baylor in both matchups, including a game that I thought might have cost Baylor, the women, a chance to make that thing, turn it around and get a chance to win the regular season title when they lost a home game, blew a lead late against Oklahoma. So that's a team Baylor hasn't beaten, and they play them tomorrow in the Big 12 women's semifinals. Let's see. Tonight,
look, they beat Oklahoma State so bad that the people in Kansas City need to go across and make sure there's not parts of Oklahoma State laying on the ground.
And that's Littell's last game too. It was what was the first quarter score again? Don't lie.
23-0.
23-0. Grand Canyon, where of course Bryce Drew. New Mexico State, they're in the semifinals in the WAC, and Abilene Christian beat my alma mater, SFA, last night. They play Seattle. There's other games going on as well, but that's kind of an overview, a wrap-up of what's going on from last night. The chat room, love to hear from you on the 254-339-1122. And I'm going to keep updating Ken Palm and the bracketologies. I'm going to give a guy a shout-out, Jared Hamby. Paul, what does he do?
He's a poker player.
He's a poker player. He's been in those big rooms. His name is Jared, and can I say his name? What his name is on this? Everyone knows who he is. His Hambone, and he has been one that at times has bantered back and forth on Jerry Palm or Joe Lenardi. He is very sharp with all this stuff because guess what? He's a man with numbers. He understands. That's what he does in poker. I just talked to him on the phone before the show started. I want to give him a shout out. He does believe that there's still a chance that Baylor is locked in at number one no matter what happens the rest of the weekend, but Kentucky and Duke, of course, might have something to say about that.
So what do y'all think of the theory that some Baylor fans were posing last night of, they get more rest if they're a number 2 seed?
I don't want to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
That sounds to me like, listen, yes, she broke up with me, but we're still going to be friends.
Yeah, no. Let me, and I understand. I've heard this because last year they got knocked out on Friday by Oklahoma State, and it was the best thing that happened to them, if you think about it, because they were in the bubble in Kansas City. They had finished. They won the Big 12 championship outright with a huge gut check win against West Virginia. Then they pummeled Texas Tech. They went to the tournament, and Oklahoma State got them. Cade Cunningham had a big night. They got him. And that, to a man, They discussed it not right after that, but they went straight back into the Kansas City bubble, straight to Indianapolis, and it gave them a couple of days. Now, would they have rather won it? Yeah. Do you know in the last 7 years, Scott Drew in Big 12 tournaments 3-7?
Okay.
We hear about Chris Beard and his 1-5. Baylor's 3-7. That's got to get better too. Although you'd rather have the regular season title.
Yeah, stop applying last year, this year. Every year's different.
It is different. I agree.
And last year they needed because they were coming off the COVID pause. They hadn't practiced that much. This team's not coming off any COVID pause. Yes, the rest will probably be good for them, but the momentum would have been just as good too. Would you have thought any different of the team had they not? I don't think anything, had they not had a big COVID pause and rolled through the conference and won the conference tournament, the only thing that would have been different is that Gonzaga would maybe been a little more aware. That's it.
Let me tell you something. The way Texas Tech played Iowa State last night and the way they beat Baylor a couple of times during the regular season, I'm sure that might be something that they might have been just like getting chopped tonight by the Red Raiders, who continue to play with a chip on their shoulder, because they kind of ended. They needed to kind of get a little of their swagger back, and they, again, as I mentioned, pummeled Iowa State. From Lee Buttercup, that party, I wasn't invited. I didn't want to go anyway. Well, let me get some much-needed homework done.
Yeah,
Lee.
Exactly.
Yeah. From Timothy Vermeer, Iowa is again winning big against Rutgers. Just told us on the chat room, the trainer at Rutgers just picked up 2 bench technical fouls. See, that's inexcusable.
That's 4.
That's inexcusable. And I asked Timothy to give us more details on that. Hey, by the way, here's our schedule today. Carlos Silva covers Texas Tech, joins us at 3:30. Grayson on Baylor recruiting, his thoughts about last night's loss to Oklahoma at 3:45. Then Bob Bodine, he is the president and CEO of Eastman and Bodine. He also is a part of a search firm, runs it. He was a part of the search firm that found this guy named Scott Drew, found those coaches, as I mentioned, at North Texas, Law Tech, and many other places. Also found and helped discover, yes, Mack Rhodes will be an excellent possibility and option. And in fact, wasn't the option. He was the one that was offered the job, as Dr. Garland said last night, immediately after they met with him.
All right. I wonder if the Rutgers trainer's double technical was as good as Bob Huggins yesterday. Oh. Huggy Bear went from 0 to 60 so fast.
Yeah. No, yeah. He did not want to have anything to do. Yeah. Let me ask you this. He probably earned it. Do you think they do that? How many coaches would not have been thrown out that they threw out Bob Huggins yesterday?
No, I think.
Would they do that to Coach K? Would they do that to Self? Would they do that with, No,
I think they would have, because I think he doubled down hard enough to where whatever he said was the. There are certain words that you can say to officials, okay, I think, or ways that you can say things. I think his thing was like, give me a technical, okay, let's finish it out then.
All right.
Go ahead.
One more from Rich Boone. Question: is better to be a number 1 seed and not be in San Antonio bracket, or a number 1 seed in another bracket? No matter what, most likely they open up in Fort Worth, but I do understand that the next round after that, you can, if you're in the right place, go to San Antonio, which would be awesome. If you're Baylor or anybody, Fort Worth, you got to win twice, and then San Antonio. And the next thing you know, if you're fortunate to get to the Final Four, and again, only 4 can be there, it's in New Orleans, which is where they just, of course, played and won the Sugar Bowl. Let's see here. Chris, that's an NFL question. Anything else you guys want to bring up from last night or what you've seen tonight or today when it comes to men's or women's? Again, Baylor won by 1,000 over Oklahoma State.
I do think this. I think that 3 of 22 is an absolute aberration based on this team shooting from 3. They're probably not going to do that again, so that should put you at ease. But it's not the best time to decide you're not going to make threes.
What's to you more of a concern? They allowed 11 threes, or they were 3 for 22.
3 for 22. I mean, that's a big. I mean, in the immediate. Now, if they're allowing 11 threes and they can't correct that, then that's probably more of a long-term thing. But the fact that they shot 3 of 22 right now is more concerning to me.
I think it's the opposite. Because of the fact that 322, they're not going to do. You surely don't think they'll do that again. Giving up 11 threes. Oklahoma, remember, they beat Tech like 2 or 3 weeks ago, and they did that when they hit a bunch of threes. To me, what do you think, Craig? Giving up 11 threes or going 3 for 22 going forward as the biggest concern?
I say giving up, I say shooting 3 of 22. I mean, if the other team's hitting 11 threes, what are you going to do about it? I mean, you can do something defensively, but if a team's making shots, they're making shots. Like, I mean, there's only so much you can blame on the defense for that. If you're not hitting shots, that's squarely on you. So if they run into a team in the tournament that's hitting 11 threes, well, then that's just your bad luck. But if you go into the tournament and you shoot 3 of 22, that's squarely on you. So, it's their shooting that is more problem-ridden to me.
Oklahoma doesn't hit 11 threes most of the time. They're not that was outside the norm. I mean,
don't know if that's...
They're not a bad three-point shooting team, but they're not a great
three-point. They're a terrible two-point. They're a terrible inside the arc shooting
but
team.
They're not a team that defensively you would scout going like, oh, man, they're going to rain threes on us, especially not 11.
But I think that's the only way they can win. Because they don't score a lot of. I think the only way they're going to win is if they hit a bunch of threes.
Okay, if you stop their 11 threes, but you're still shooting 3 of 22,
you win by 5.
Yeah, so that's my point is like their bad shooting is more of a problem than the other team's hot shooting. There's only so much you can do about the other team. You're responsible for you. So if you're missing 19 3-point attempts, I don't care how much the other team scored, that's on you. That's squarely, you missed 19 threes, I don't care what the other team made. That's on you.
By the way,
that's how I view it.
And Gibson, good night for him. Umoja Gibson, young man from Waco, from University High. He had 14 points, made a huge N1. That was a big deal with that, a big, huge N1. And the young man from University High out of Waco is a part of that Oklahoma team that will play against Texas Tech tonight. When we come back, Carlos Silva, he was there for that game with Texas Tech in their slaughterhouse of Iowa State. And hey, now they play Oklahoma. And then the other game, TCU, the gritty TCU against Kansas, who's maybe they're trying to secure or get to a number 1 seed, depending on who you ask. One thing about last night's Baylor game, they had won 9 consecutive games on a neutral site. In tournament elimination games, that streak was snapped. 9 consecutive games on a neutral site, including last year's 6 in the tournament, and then, of course, some of the tournaments they played back in the first semester of this year. 254-339-1122 is the text line. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street, a hidden gem in Waco. You cannot beat their selection. You cannot beat the kind of cool events they have, and you cannot beat their variety when it comes to moving new products through, whether it's Happy Dad Hard Seltzer, which they sold out of in an afternoon. But they had an event. It's popular. The different balconies that they've gotten in over the years that are just barrels for them. The variety of high-end bourbons they have. The craft beer that they have. All at Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive, North 19th Street. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness is a partner of the City of Waco? Did you know that we are open to the public? Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers day passes to the public for only $10 a day, and we offer money-saving memberships. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including bar, yoga, boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. There are free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, elliptical machines, and much more on the spacious weight room floor. Personal training available where you can be encouraged to grow. Sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. 17 tennis courts, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Waco's premier experience where you can help your mind, body, and soul. Visit our website at wacotennis.com. Call us at 254-753-7675 or visit us next to Hawaiian Falls on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
Cars priced right both day and night at Richard Car in Texas. Trucks built for you, red, white, and blue at Richard Car in Texas. Cars that zoom with lots of room at Richard Car in Texas. Count on us, a dealer to trust at Richard Car in Waco, Texas.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
Carlos Silva, Lubbock Avalanche Journal. Texas Tech at Oklahoma, one of the semifinals tonight following that Kansas game with TCU. And Texas Tech, as we mentioned, they hammered Iowa State last night. Got on them early and never relented, and it was ugly. Carlos Silva joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Carlos, because of how the regular season, which has been really good for Texas Tech, because of how it ended, how important was it for Tech to kind of send a statement and get back in that mode last night?
I think, if anything, and appreciate you all having me on, I think the most important factor for Texas Tech was just to see how they would respond with a full and at least somewhat healthy roster. You saw what happens when Kevin McCullough is on the floor. The defense looks a lot more crisp. They're able to get more deflections. Their perimeter defense has improved. Isaiah Brockington, when he was about to get hot, he was 2 for 2. They put McCullough on him, and then he misses the next shot. So I think that's something that is a luxury that Mark Adams didn't have earlier on. He was certainly looking for different looks, trying to get different guys on the floor, different mixtures, to see if he can get a stop. And I think now that he has this full array or complement of guys that he can say, okay, Kevin McCullough can go here, Terrence Shannon can go here, Daniel Botcher can go here. And not only that, but they had a rotation of 10 that they played last night. That just goes to show the type of depth. And then even then, after those 10 guys, you still have Chibuzo Agbo and some of the other guys that most would consider, end of the bench guys, but they're still making plays later on. As you saw Chibuzo Agbo take a ball away from an Iowa State player and get a quick layup. So I think to your point, yes, I think the response last night was certainly needed from Texas Tech, but I think more important, Mark Adams was just looking to see if his guys were just focused and ready to play, and really, as he mentioned before earlier in the week, make this a practice for the NCAA tournament.
All right, so how are we supposed to figure this matchup with Oklahoma tonight, given that the first time they played, Tech played one of their worst games of the season and lost by 15. And then the next time they played, you could argue it was one of their best games of the season, especially defensively, only gave up 42 points and won 66-42. So what is it that we have to expect tonight?
I think the one thing you're going to expect is they want to make sure everyone remembers, we played really good against Oklahoma, because Mark Adams mentioned it Last night he mentioned it the night of when they lost that game in Norman. That's the first time that and he used this term, got whipped all year. And I think that's something, and he's very tactful with his words. And I think the whole reason he used that is because he wants to make sure his team does not get out-efforted. His team doesn't lose any rebounds. His team just doesn't show any weakness or toughness. And I think that's something that you're going to see tonight is how will they take on Umoja Gibson, who had that huge night in Norman. Can you slow him down? Can you make sure that he doesn't get going or get caught on fire, kind of like what they did with Isaiah Brockington yesterday? Now, granted, it's a different situation because Tanner Grove certainly had himself a game last night, and they've got a little bit more weapons than Iowa State. But I think for Texas Tech, the biggest thing is do not allow the three-point shot to fall, because if they do, it could be a very, very bad night for the Red Raiders. But to your point, I think when you're looking at what this matchup could be, I think the Red Raiders are looking to bounce back, and they're looking to continue what they want to do, which is win the league title, and then use this as I mentioned before, use this as a practice to the NCAA tournament, because it's win or go home, and they want to continue to win.
Carlos, you mentioned the league title there. How much does that serve as motivation, and especially given the way the regular season ended with Baylor and Kansas splitting a share? Tech had a chance there at the end. There was the scenarios where a three-way tie, but that didn't work out. So how much that maybe burn their saddle a little bit, seeing Baylor and Kansas win a title and now obviously wanting to get one of their own?
Well, I don't know if that necessarily bothers them. I think you can look back at some of the other earlier games where you lose a game to Kansas State in Manhattan. That's something you shouldn't have done earlier on. You look at all the records against the top 3 to 4 teams in the conference, and they're really good. But when they played down, if you will, or they played to some of the teams that are at the bottom of the conference, they didn't play as well. And I think that's what Mark wants to see tonight is, can you step up to the occasion? Yes, Oklahoma can still, however you want to look at it in terms of where they are in the conference standings, you can look at that. But I think right now, Mark is just looking for his team to play at a high level, because every team's going to be playing their best when you play in March, which he already mentioned last night. And I think you're going to get your best effort from everyone, and I think that's going to be the key for Texas Tech, is not really focus on the title. He just wants them to focus on each game and make sure that they're playing their best. And if they do that, they're going to be able to celebrate with the title at the end of the year, which would be the first time that Texas Tech would be doing that as well.
Carlos, McCullough, of course, came back. That was good, or he came back. He's healthy. Shannon, of course, has battled back. I mean, I look at the box score, and I know it was a blowout, so they just emptied the bench, but they had 9-10 players play 14 minutes or more last night. Are they as healthy as they have been? And this kind of, they just bring waves of people at you no matter who it is?
Well, I know Red Raider fans got mad at me the last time I said it, but yes, they are as healthy as they've been, because right after I said that, they had a couple injuries. But I think right now, when you look at what they did, you also have to keep in mind that they have a game at 8:30 tonight, so I'm sure Mark was trying to do his best to empty the bench and make sure his guys that are going to probably get a much heavier minute load the next couple of days if they do make it to the championship game. He wants to make sure that he doesn't overtax them, especially a McCullough who's coming off that high left ankle sprain, or Terrence Shannon who's been dealing with the back issues all year, and then Daniel Bachu who's dealing with a knee issue. I think that there was a little bit of that, but I think the most important thing that Mark really wanted to see from his team, and he always mentions the word toughness, but he kind of looks at toughness as we have to win the battle in the paint, have to win the rebounding battle, and I think they were able to do that because they outscored Iowa State just in total, just from paint scores, 42, and I believe Iowa State had 41 points last night. But I think that's one thing he really wanted to see, because for the first time all year, Oklahoma State actually beat them the points in the paint battle, and I think that was something that he wasn't pleased about, because I think that's something that he wants to ensure that other teams know that we're going to get the ball into the paint, we're going to score on you, and that's just something that's more assertive, and that's going to show their aggressiveness.
Carlos, is there any consternation from fans at all over what their seed or their locale could be for Texas Tech? Or are they, given the way that this team plays, does it really matter?
Fans are going to fan. I mean, you guys know that. Obviously, Texas Tech would love to be in Fort Worth, just because of the way that their fan base is in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Obviously, Baylor fans would love to be in Fort Worth as well, because of the close and proximity of it. But I think the brand of basketball that Texas Tech plays is going to travel wherever it goes, whether it's San Diego, Milwaukee. I mean, insert first-round city here, but the way that they play defense gives them a chance to win every game. And again, I will kind of underline this. The fact that Kevin McCullough is back is their X factor. It's like you're getting like a 5-star recruit right before you start a big tournament run. And I think that boost that they got was shown yesterday, and it's going to probably even out a little bit as the games go on and you get into the NCAA tournament. But you just saw how much of a high level Texas Tech can play when you've got a kid with the basketball IQ and is making sure everyone on defense is where they should be. The help is coming from the correct spot, or he's able to make up for a guy that maybe, isn't able to guard someone on the perimeter. I think the small little intricacies that were hurting Texas Tech later on in the season were erased, so to speak, by Kevin McCullough and his presence last night.
Debbie on the chat room said this: Texas Tech's defense can travel and get to the Final Four. Their offense could also have them lose in the first round. Obviously, though, now with the depth, as you mentioned, with McCullough back, that allows them. But that's still a concern, isn't it? They kind of have that. I think they just overwhelm people. I think they're going to. I do believe they're going to get fairly deep into the tournament. We just don't know what. You need a couple of things to go your way. But would you agree with that statement?
I think that's a fair assessment, and I think I can go back to Oklahoma State where they held a 3-point lead for 9.5 minutes to close out that game, and they weren't able to score. But it also shows that they were able to defend like heck and didn't allow Oklahoma State to score those, 4 points to get that 1-point victory on the road. Now, granted, I don't know what that says more about Oklahoma State's offense or the way that Texas Tech wasn't able to score, but I think the one thing that really, really can make Texas Tech a contender for getting to either the Final Four or even farther than that, if they can start draining threes, which Kevin McCullough had 3 of them last night, that opens up their offense. And not only that, but then just gives them a boost, because once you open up the offense, that's going to give Terrence Shannon space to drive, Kevin McCullough space to drive, Adonis Arms space to drive, Davion Warren space to drive. And then not only that, but then you've got 2 guys in Kevin O'Banner and Bryson Williams who can also drain threes. So I think that's the biggest key for Texas Tech if they really want to take that next step. McCullough helped on the defensive end, but if you want to fix the ailments, if you will, on offense, you've got to drain your 3-point shots.
Thank you, Carlos. We appreciate your time. Enjoy tonight. Oklahoma, Texas Tech in the semifinals. Always appreciate Carlos's insight on the Texas Tech run they've made this year. There is huge news in the NFL. You want to break and come back with it?
It's up to you.
Yeah, let's just hit it real quick because we got to get to Grayson. But
no, go ahead. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's Cowboys news and there's other NFL news.
Craig, you
start.
I'll
go with what I assume we all agree is the big NFL news. Texans quarterback, I guess former, basically Texans quarterback Deshaun Watson will not face charges. His criminal matters are over, per Ian Rappaport. Molly Baker-Kuselich saying grand jury does not find enough to criminally charge Deshaun Watson. 9 accusations, none were found to be criminal. So Deshaun Watson's legal battles are over, and now we're going to see him on an NFL team very, very soon as a result.
Yeah, I would think that the settlements will come now a little bit quicker, and there's a suspension coming for him. Whatever team gets him, based especially on the Ben Roethlisberger history of not criminal charges but settlements, is going to have to maybe have him sit for 4, 6, 8 games, but in the long run, when you're just talking dollars and cents and quarterbacks, somebody's going to give that up for a guy as talented as Deshaun Watson.
That's the point. No matter what we are now talking about legally, and you imagine the road and journey he's been a part of, he will not face criminal charges. There can still be civil suits, all of that, but also the NFL can still come down with their own penalties, suspension or otherwise, which you probably think that might happen. They've done that before. Now, what do you think you can get if you're Houston? Deshaun Watson is probably, even didn't play last year, is he not among the top 5 or 6 best quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, what's the deal for Russell Wilson? There's your framework right there.
There you go.
So, I wonder if...
What if Seattle turns out they get
they've got the picks. They could turn right back around and get him, and maybe they don't have an angry DK Metcalf here for a little bit, but...
Redskins, of course, would have you wouldn't pull the trigger on a move.
I'd still do that
3
right now.
days before this happens. Like, that's... Oh, man, they are just so cursed. It's
It doesn't
beyond
mean
the
they would have
imagination.
enough to do it.
No,
but
I know.
it'd be worth it,
I know, but at least they, have it. Now they have they're not going to be involved now. I wouldn't think at all because of the fact that they've already made a move. But yeah, that's just so typical of them. Quite frankly, the timing being poor. But yeah, I mean,
then
Carolina.
Why not wait? Then why wouldn't they have waited?
I don't know.
Wait.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I have no idea. I mean, it kind of seemed like this was all coming to a head. So I don't know why they made a move like 2-3 days before people were expecting, maybe there to be some resolution. I don't know. I don't know all the details of what was expected or not. But regardless, I would assume Matt Rule and Carolina are on the phone right now. And I would think that Seattle's on the phone right now. I don't know. Maybe Washington's still on the phone right now.
I just don't know how they make that
no,
work cap-wise,
I know, but
since they're taking all of Wentz's
yeah,
deal.
exactly. So they're probably out of it, but, again, that's just them. So, yeah, Carolina and Seattle are the two that immediately come to mind, and there's others as well.
Tampa Bay?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know who all has picks, and I don't know that off the top of my head outside of Carolina
Philly?
and Seattle. Philly,
yeah. There's probably, there's 15 teams that would like it, right?
I mean,
25,
probably, probably that many. But, there's also, teams that kind of like their quarterback, and maybe they like their quarterbacks enough where they don't want to go package a bunch of picks to move off a guy who might end up being pretty good, But this does, throw a wrench or throw kind of the offseason for a loop, because now Deshaun Watson's available and he's not going to be playing in Houston. So we're about to see him on the move to somewhere and suiting up. When? We don't know, because, of course, like you said, the league's going to have their own punishments and their own say on things.
By the way, Softy Mahler, a good friend of ours at KJR in Seattle, on the Russell Wilson thing, not sure if you ever saw him, he said that Russell Wilson was a diva, became Hollywood. And that's from a guy that knows Seattle sports better than anybody I've ever known. And that doesn't mean he's taken away what he did for the franchise, but he said that kind of became that franchise with Bobby Wagner gone, now Russell Wilson gone, among others. Will be interesting to see what they do. When we come back, Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim365.com recruiting analyst, and also his thoughts about last night's Oklahoma win against Baylor going forward as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. The city of Woodway has in May a mother-daughter brunch. So pass that along. Or you, if you're a mother, how about that event? I'm telling you, it was a staggering success. And I don't mean that in a surprising way. The father-daughter dance was unbelievable. They had a waiting list of people who wanted to get involved in that. So the city of Woodway, discoverwoodway.com, has a mother-daughter brunch coming up in May. Go to discoverwoodway.com for that. And if you have a special event coming up, and it's March, and so if you've already got a wedding or a rehearsal dinner, that's been set up. I get that. But if you have a special event coming up, a gala, a banquet, a rehearsal dinner that you're looking at a location later in the year, or maybe a big business, I guess, get together and what's the word I'm looking for? 360 people can be fed, sat inside that building, the Carleen Bright Arboretum. 360, that's a big, big place, and it's gorgeous with all the scenery, the views, and much more. And by the time you get to the late spring, early summer, the landscaping will be gorgeous with the colors, the trees, and the trails, and so much more. It's discoverwoodway.com, and they have 7 hotels for you if you're looking for a chance to come to Waco to be a part of any of the special events or to visit the Magnolia or Silos. It's discoverwoodway.com.
1, 2.
I'm in love with a man named Rudy. I'm okay with that. He knows exactly what I want. He keeps me coming back. Cooks breakfast, lunch, and dinner for me. Does the dishes too. I'm in love with a man named Rudy. Last name barbecue. It sure is easy to fall in love with Rudy's tasty oak smoked barbecue.
Next in line.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
All right, Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim 365, recruiting analyst, co-host with the Bearcats and Craig Smoak. On Tuesday, released up on the site and also through social media. All right, Grayson, let's start with last night's basketball game. I want to get into the decommitment from earlier this week and a couple other things, but that was not good. And anyway, it didn't kill them because they have a game again next week at some point. But your thoughts about how that could affect their seed and just how that game went down?
Yeah, I mean, obviously the game was not ideal. When you think about kind of how Baylor played and the ebbs and flows of the game, it was really tough to watch because it felt like Oklahoma just on that night, they were just the better team. You know, they made shots. It felt like they were a little more physical than Baylor throughout the game. I wouldn't say they played harder. You know, Baylor did a pretty nice job in the turnover department. They played hard, but it just felt like they weren't quite as physical. And I think some of it was just, you know, potentially fatigue. I think some of it might have been just looking ahead to the postseason. I think all of those things could have came into play, and I think you saw it. And, you know, the toughest part is the seeding, right? And they kind of got a little bit of a blessing by Auburn losing today, but they're probably going to need a little bit more help if they want to stay on that one line. I think it's going to be really, really close. And obviously kind of that dream scenario of getting the South region as a one seed might be fading. Because if Arizona wins the Pac-12 tournament, they're probably going to be put in that bracket, and then Baylor's only chance of being in that bracket would be being a 2 seed. So we'll see kind of how that plays out. But what I do know is Baylor still is in a good position to make a run in the tournament, and now they get some time, right? Time to get more healthy, time to kind of focus and prepare for what is the most important stretch of the season.
Grayson, what we had this discussion earlier. What concerns you more? 3 of 22 for Baylor or 11 threes for Oklahoma?
Oh, I mean, it's for sure the 3 of 22 for Baylor. And the reason why I say that is because it's been something that I thought was a problem ever since they lost LJ Cryer. If they go cold from 3, which is much more likely when you have, far less 3-point shooting without LJ Cryer there to space the floor, it's a concern, right? Because if they don't get Cryer back by the time the tournament starts, they could easily have a game where they don't shoot the ball well, and that could cause a big problem. I mean, we saw it. They lost to Oklahoma, and Oklahoma's a solid team, but they're not better than a team that Baylor's probably going to face in the second round if they're a 2 seed, or they're probably on par with an 8-9 if Baylor gets a 1 seed. So, they could easily get upset if they continue to shoot like that without LJ there.
Grayson, what did you think of the idea? And I saw this from a lot of different Baylor faithful last night after the game of, oh, that's all right. They get more time to rest now. Or even if they're a number 2 seed, that's a little extra rest. And I understand the logic from the standpoint of they are a beat-up team. But your thoughts on, I know some of that's coping with a loss, but do you think there's actually anything to that in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's got to be something to that. Right now, had they won that game and then lost today, would there be a big difference? No. Now, if they had won the entire Big 12 tournament, yeah, that would have taken a big toll on their body, and maybe that wouldn't have been a good thing. But to say, one extra day, I don't know that it matters that much. But, yeah, I mean, if they'd gone all the way to the Big 12 championship game, then, yeah, it could have definitely been a problem by the time they got to the tournament.
All right, so they had a decommitment this week, a highly ranked safety, and I did read some of what you said, that the Texas and Oklahoma factor is very much heavily involved. How much of a hit is that, and what does that mean they can do without now him being a part of that list?
Yeah, so it's a big loss in my opinion. He was my highest ranked safety prospect that they had in the class. A 4-star guy, and obviously the offers have finally started to catch up to that. He got the Oklahoma offer last week. Texas has been in play for him. Arkansas. I think he got an Ole Miss offer actually right after he decommitted as well. So, I mean, he's a really good player. He's going to be a tough one to replace, but what I would say is it allows Baylor to get a little more creative. They took 3 safety commits really early. Javion Wilcox, Corey Huff, and Tyler Turner. Turner is the one who decommitted. And so I think this allows them to maybe spin that spot on a cornerback instead. And honestly, that's a position they really need to address more than safety even. So I think that's kind of where you'll see that make up the difference. I don't think the staff is too worried about it. I don't think that this is a massive loss that's going to ruin the class or anything like that. But I do think he's a very quality player and a quality individual. And so now, Baylor's got to figure out a way to replace him in the class culturally and then also just athletically at the safety spot.
Does it seem like the chances of a reunion are pretty slim? Because you know how it is when guys decommit. I mean, sometimes they come and revisit the school they were committed to, but that's kind of the exception to the rule.
Yeah, it's kind of rare. And, he committed when Matthew Pallage was the safety coach at Baylor. And obviously visited, even after he left and still really likes Baylor. And I do think that he will give Baylor a fair shot if Baylor really, really wants him. But I actually think, under Dave Aranda, I mean, we saw last year when Cedric Roberts decommitted, they weren't in the business of trying to take him back. I think this is one of those situations where Baylor wants guys who 100% want to be at Baylor. And so if you waver, if you decide to go elsewhere, well then, Baylor's going to go try to fill your spot. And if your spot gets taken before, you make a decision, then so be it. So I do think it's probably wise to think of this as he's going to go somewhere else. But I do think Tyler will give them a shot, potentially take a visit. But I do know he wants to take his official visits out of state. He wants to go see different places that he wouldn't normally be able to see.
Final thing for you, we've had a lot of talk over the last few months about what a loaded Central Texas recruiting class there is for this year and the year after. But Trey Wisner from Connolly dropped his top list of schools: Oklahoma State, Oklahoma, Oregon, Texas, A&M, Arkansas, Florida State, USC. Obviously no Baylor there. Just talk about Trey Wisner because we watched him a couple years ago. He's a fantastic player, and obviously he's playing here in Waco. But in terms of not having Baylor on his list, did that surprise you at all? And how much of a loss, if you would even call it that, how did he fit into the recruiting picture in your mind?
Yeah, so I actually wouldn't call him that big of a loss.
Okay.
He was not their number one running back. Based on kind of what I've seen and kind of the trend, it really seems like, there's a couple guys that they valued a little bit more than him. And I also would say, a part of that is, hey, he's a big time recruit. Maybe we'll look elsewhere and try to land someone who maybe isn't getting as much attention. Now, the flip side of that is Baylor's about to have a running back from Florida take an official visit in June, who is actually, a top 100 guy in the entire country, a guy with a ton of offers, and that's Trayon Webb out of Trinity Christian down there in Florida. So he's taking an official visit. I know one of their other big-time running back prospects, Amarian Peterson out of Hershey, he just got the Alabama offer this week. He's been a guy that Baylor's really, really wanted. And then Marquise Collins out of College Station is another guy who carried his team all the way to a state championship appearance. So they have a lot of options at running back. And to be honest, with the system and the scheme that they run at Baylor, I think they can find a running back that will be equal or better than Trey. And I think based on how they've been recruiting the position, I just don't think that it's that significant of a loss for them.
Grayson, thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Grayson with the inside knowledge. Grayson Grunhafer, Sikkim 365 recruiting analyst, co-host of the Bearcast.
Yeah, I saw where USC went and dropped an offer on Darian Gillette, and I think they had another guy they offered here recently in Central Texas. So USC's been around here in the last few days, and then Oklahoma State offered Jelani McDonald over at Connolly. So they've been around here, and then, you got Trey Wisner with a pretty blue blood heavy type of finalist of school. So it's a big class. Doesn't mean they're all going to go to Baylor, obviously, but it's going to be cool to kind of track where all these guys go, because this is not just Big 12 offers. This is a lot of national attention being placed on the area this year. So it's pretty cool.
All right, we had that series we started Wednesday, kind of background, different angles of the search to find an athletic director back in 2016 during the summer that found Mack Rhodes. Wednesday, Doug McNamee, who was on campus as a fundraiser and then became a part of the athletic department. Yesterday, Dr. David Garland. In just a moment, Sports Illustrated called him the most influential man in sports you've never heard of. But if you have been involved in any kind of search when it comes to administrators, coaches, and also the fact he's the president and CEO of Eastman and Bodine, Bob Bodine and his backstory on the Mack Rhodes search next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Ideal MRI. I told you the story that back, it was a few months ago, Carl, who listens to our show and has since back in the days we were on the radio, and now, of course, Sikkim 365 and 365 Sports. His wife needed to get an MRI, but the insurance company wouldn't clear it. And, so his doctors wanted to get all sorts of clearance from the insurance company. He had heard us, Sikkim 365 Radio, discuss Ideal MRI for a long, long time. So what they did, they came up one weekend. She had an MRI, found out what they needed to know, and that's a great story because otherwise she was kind of stuck with red tape. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace just off of I-35 in Waco. Ideal MRI with Teresa working the front desk, handling all the appointments and making sure everything is on time. Also the techs Marcus, Darlene, and Cheryl. Dr. Rob Maxey, a partner. They will find out what hurts so much. Shoulder, knee, your back, or something going on within your abdomen, whatever is a ligament or a muscle or something that hurts, they'll find it with their state-of-the-art technology MRI machine. And on top of that, going to save you a bunch of money. An average MRI is $1,100. Theirs will never be more than $497, and sometimes it will be less. So you need to get online at idealmri.com, go by the Central Texas Marketplace with their beautiful building, and find out how you get an appointment, set it up. You won't have a long wait. They will get you in. They have flexible hours based on your schedule. How about that? It's idealmri.com.
At Allen Samuels, come see the Wagoneer Series 2 and 3 with 2.9% for 72 months plus $1,500 in bonus cash. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop this incredible vehicle that gives you performance, style, perfect for your family, and reliability your family deserves today from Allen Samuels in Waco. Come shop our huge inventory at Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here's Luke Altmaier. First down, and he's taken down. And it's Terrell Bernard. And he has 15 and a half career sacks now.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sikkim 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We started a series Wednesday looking back at the search that landed Baylor, Mack Rhodes at Baylor. We've heard from different angles. And now we go to the motherlode. Bob Bodine, president and CEO of Eastman and Bodine, also a search firm, part of a search firm that has has hired numerous administrators and coaches. In fact, he was at the Louisiana Tech win against North Texas and was the one that landed those two head coaches at La Tech and Grant McCaslin at North Texas. Bob, Mr. Bodine, great to have you on. It's an honor. How you doing, sir?
Man, fantastic, David. I really enjoyed being on your show, and congratulations on all you guys are done.
Thank you very, very much. So when did Mack Rhoades come on the radar? I know that they needed to make this one right. It seemed like it happened pretty quickly. Can you kind of give us a little bit of background on that?
So I've known Mack Rhoades back before because I placed him twice in his career. I started to get to know Mack back when he was at UTEP, and I placed him at Akron. So I had a chance back then. And so I don't know if you want to start there or you want to start up more recent. You got your choice.
Yeah, okay, when Baylor's job became available, when all of that was going on with the transition, was he someone that you contacted immediately as the search firm, or was he the first choice that Dr. Garland said after you met with him, it seemed like that was what Baylor wanted to do?
Yeah, so, in my business, I've now done this for 42 years. So Mack and I had been friends for, back since 2003. And so I got a chance to watch him as he grew, got a chance to place him there, which, at Akron, and then I've always stayed in touch in this whole process. So he was the main focus all along, 100%. So he's the perfect fit and so I had to, going in and talking to someone like Mack, who had been a year and a half at Mizzou. Now that's a little complicating,
yeah.
in a process, because there was a lot going on at Mizzou at the time. And so I had a lot going on, obviously at Baylor, and had a huge opportunity to do things going back as far as Scott Drew. And so I was used to understanding how to vision cast something. And because I knew Mack so well, and I knew Mack's faith, and I knew that Mack's from Texas, and I knew that, it was, he would love to come back, and this would be an opportunity of a lifetime. He could share his faith in Texas, and he couldn't do that at Mizzou. And there's also, when you're an athletic director, as you know, you got to deal with a board, and his board at Mizzou is a little complicated because they're called a board of curators. And when you're dealing with curators, those are not necessarily Mizzou grads. These are people like city council people. And so, they can just hit you from anything on any various side. And so I was going to have to create a process and a plan to go out and get Mack to first look at this job. And to do that, you have what we do differently at Eastman and Bodine. I worked for my dad for 20 years. My dad started the executive search industry. So we're more consultants, and we spend time trying to, if we want to err on the side of our candidate, not our client, because if it's not good for Mack, I don't want it. It wouldn't be good for Baylor. And so, we do everything, and all our leadership and all our style is personal, because we're friends to start with, and I know him. So I had to first kind of start and say, okay, so I've got this opportunity and, you're the perfect guy. And so we started to chat a little bit about that, started to talk about what the opportunity could be and where he could do it. And, being a strong Christian firm myself, in this, what I do is, a man without a vision perishes. And so we set a vision for him, and he was extremely excited.
Bob, when you set up something, because people can make a list of good coaches, good athletic directors, and just try to go down the list and call people and be like, well, he's good, he's won here. But when you try to find a fit for someone, do you have is there a flow chart? What's your organizational process when you try to find these factors in this, not just saying, well, this guy's been good here, so he can be good anywhere, because as you know, that's not necessarily the case.
So when we look, David, we start out with a process is that what would the best candidate want in a job rather than a job description? So if I'm going to try to get you to do something you're not going to do, there's 5 things that we look at so that I can sit and consult with you and the candidate, and we can sit and talk about these 5, and we evaluate them together against what they're currently doing. And so when I first started with Mack, I said, so let's review the 5, right? And number 1 is you want to go where you're celebrated, not where you're tolerated. And so that's a big thing today for a thing. So what that means is then you have to be able to talk about Dr. Garland. You got to talk about, Cheryl Gotches. You got to talk about what's happening at Baylor. Be able to talk about all the things, and then say, here's our issues and this aspect. And then, how are you being celebrated where you are? Number two is I'm going to talk about tools. And so, specific tools that Baylor would have for him versus the other. But when I talk about these five, there's a mirror, right? My client wants to be celebrated, and they want Mac to be able to have had experience and tools that could come in and do something for Baylor that needed to be done today. And what is that? Mac has elite skills in interpersonal skills. And so he creates an atmosphere of, that like, come join us. And so when the first time you meet Mac, I mean, I'll never forget back when, and I'll come back to my five, but the first time I ever met Mac, he, when we put him up for Akron, when he came into the room, and we had a large committee at the time, he walked around the room and spent time with each person. He didn't just shake their hand and move on, right? And people in Waco, they want someone they could really think is genuine, who's intentional about it, but they want them to have skills in aspects of not seeing trouble as trouble, but seeing it as a kind of an opportunity in disguise. And he has that ability to kind of look at it as a springboard to better things, because he's so organized, he's so thorough. And so knowing somebody, so in the years that you spend time with him, I sat on the board of I put him the head of all Division I athletic directors. So we spend time, and these candidates, all these people come to our office, we sit and talk, we look at their background, we look at their skills. So it's not like, hey, I got a yellow pages. I mean, you got to look and say, what is my client looking? So great candidates want to go where they're celebrated. They want tools, and they want it to be good for their family, right? And so coming from Texas, I knew this would be a better thing for him. Coming from the fact that he'd want to go to a Christian school and really spend his career and do that would be really good. Knowing, as I did, not only Dr. Garland, and now, which is elite because, Linda's so fantastic at her skills and her ability to do things. And then that made it his ability to deal with a president. I've watched him, right? So one of my best friends was the number 2 person at Akron. So I watched his skills and his ability to do that. I knew his athletic director and who he had, Bob Stull at UTEP. And Bob was a former coach at Mizzou. He when they went to UTEP, they had already been, when Bob got there, they had NCAA violations. They had trouble. And when he brought Mac in, that's what they were dealing with, right? And they turned it totally around. And so they built up stadiums, they raised money, a job today and all of this is just fantastic in that. And so a good candidate wants to create a legacy. So I like people who see past the trouble to see, hey, I'm able to hire great coaches. I'm able to hire great staff. I mean, look at the staff and coaches that he has. I mean, he's just done a beautiful job with Jeremiah and Joe Vaughn and Marcus and he did with Doug McNamee. Now with Kevin Gall. I mean, he's elite in creating an atmosphere of great team. And so last is I wanted to give an opportunity for him to do better in money where he was. And so I had all 5. I don't think people should ding out on any of these, David. I mean, that's the key is you're supposed to do a job you love with people you love in a place you love where your family loves. You get to do it for the right reasons.
Bob, you brought up the faith aspect a couple of times, and I know that's been something that's been important to Mac, is to be able to openly celebrate his faith. I know for Dave Aranda, that's been another draw for him and for other coaches as well. How important was that on the Baylor side of things in terms of who they were looking for, and just how important was that for someone like a Mac Rhodes and others perhaps who come to a school like Baylor where, it's not the necessarily most widely loved or celebrated thing about the school, but for the people who are Christian or people of faith, it is very important to them.
I mean, if you look at the type of people that we have, faith was number 1. It's always faith. It's always based on family. It's always based on some facet of not shying away from trouble, but being able to turn it into something great. It's a catalyst. So if you take guys like Scott Drew and Jason Cook and Jim Grove and Matt Rule and Brett Dalton and Dave Aranda, all of them, the very first thing that they would turn to me and I would be able to sell is their faith, right? I mean, today you get canceled for talking about your faith. You get squashed into a point and, you lose your unique ability to share with, student athletes who are in trouble. The issue today with, is that you can't just do a job you like. You can't ever be successful at what you like. So the only way you can be successful is if you love it. And of course, if I can start with the fact that I don't necessarily have all the answers, there's a limitation to Bob, there's a limitation to Mac, but there isn't when all of a sudden I can start to share God and I can start to share something that we can be overcomers. And of course, no one's better than that than Baylor.
Bob Bodine, President, CEO, Eastman and Bodine, obviously the search firm, speaker, author, much more, a part of the search, involved in the search with Mack Rhoades, Scott Drew even, and what, of course, has come of that as well. Craig Smoak, David Smoak, and Paul Catalina with us on Sikkim 365 Radio. How much with what you said about UTEP dealing with NCAA stuff, and then what he had to deal with the short time at Missouri, which there was a mess there, did that prepare him, Bob, for what was going on at Baylor?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and even going to a school that didn't have good budgets and didn't have, troubled in all that Akron had. Each of the spots coming into Houston, learning all the aspects of having to turn around a program, and then all of a sudden having tough, major aspects of understanding, how I'm going to relate up. See, one of the things I want to just talk a second about Mac, which is again, it's an elite skill of someone, if I can find it, you can manage up and then you can manage down and you can manage with your peers. And so he likes doing all of those. He treats people the way you like to be treated. I mean, when you're with him, he has kind of Ronald Reagan skills where he can put his arm around you and tell you a story and do it in a way that you feel personal. It's personal with you. And it is. I mean, I've known him for all these years. And, he sees you in a crowd. He'll give you a look. He'll wave to you. Where other people, they're concerned about this. Those skills are crucial in a town like Waco, in my opinion, because Waco has such a great community of people. It's small and yet it's thriving now with Chip and Joanna and all the things that are going around and all the growth that's happening in Texas, where everybody in New York and everyone in California and everywhere else want to move here. But it's so great to have someone who's so organized. I mean, that's one of the things. I mean, I laugh at, if you know Mac, he's thorough. When you go to an interview with him, he's thorough. But I like it in the way as why? Because look at his results. I mean, he's slow enough to listen to the candidate. He's able to really evaluate something. And so the key in a search, one of the things that I like, when I was doing the search, I was finishing a book I wrote called Two Chairs, and which has been, one chair for you, one for God, you meet him in the morning. And so what I try to do to see about fit is to see how you're going to respond to all of a sudden a book that's requiring you, hey, does God know your situation? Is it too hard for him? Would you actually meet him in the morning, first thing? And the answer is, Mac, one of the things that when we put in Nikki Collins in this whole process and who's doing so unbelievable, in my opinion, has had one of the greatest, ability to follow a legend and has done so unbelievable this year. When you talk about her, the very first thing he says in his opening is, hey, I just thank God, and I've done Two Chairs, and I had done this, and I'm talking to God. When I was talking to Dave Aranda, talking him into it, I mean, he was going to look at another opportunity, and he still had to go and look at potentially Oregon and Phil Knight and all the stuff that was going around it. And I said, hey, this is fantastic. Why? And I said, well, first, I want you to spend time at Two Chairs with you and your wife, and he's a man of faith. And so all of these pieces of a pie in a process is what makes people come alive to you, right, in a meeting. And he's really good at that.
Bob, this is Paul Catalina. When you placed Mac, though, it's not a situation in this team's coach left and they want to hire a good one and find that fit. You were telling your client and a friend of yours, I am going to put you on a helicopter and drop you in a ship in the middle of a hurricane, because that's what was going on here. How delicate it is to navigate that particular situation.
Well, having done it, I mean, I don't think it could be anything more so in my life, because people hire us because they know we really like. I tell people, they said, "What job should I give you?" And I said, "Give me your worst," right? And because it just gives a chance, for God to shine. And so when I did Scott Drew, I mean, could that be any worse?
Yeah.
And so And so, but Scott and I talked the very first night about winning a championship, national championship. And we talked the very first night. I was pacing it back in front of my house. When I talked to Mac, he had already faced a number of times at UTEP and Houston and Akron. And he was in the midst of a big crisis where they were on campus at Mizzou. And so one of the things is he wasn't shying away from it. I just told him that, listen, if I had the right people, the right challenge, the right opportunity, the right growth, the right money, and my question is, and he and I have a lot in common because first off, he's got a fantastic wife, Amy, and he has 3 daughters like I have. And I said, would you, this would be the end of your career. And so he never, ever was worried about coming into that environment, ever. I mean, he looked at it, and when he sat with our committee, and we had just a great committee with Dr. Garland. I know you had him on, and I mean, holy cow, I just love him. And so, but we had Robin Driscoll, and we had, Dan Horde, and we had, I think you have the best HR person, Cheryl Gotchers, in the world. And so when we sat in that room, everyone, there's people when they walk into a room, and they carry this personal environment. And you walk in, you can't see energy, but you sure know when it enters the room. Mm-hmm. And when he walks in, and you can tell who's going to win the job in the first 5 minutes. And he had us already laughing. He already had us in. He has skills because he already knows everything about everybody else. I mean, one of my guys in my neighborhood that I loved and grew up around was Zig Ziglar. And Zig used to say, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care about them. And so I'm always thinking, I wrote a book called The Power of Who. It's about the people who matter most. And he understands the who were those candidates, those people in the room. And he was making everyone in the room feel that they were going to be part of his team and that he needed them. And he wanted to be onboarded right, and that this would have to be great for everybody in the family. And so by the time you finished, I mean, dang it, they wanted to cheer. I mean, I didn't let him leave the room. I put him into a green room for a second, went back in. They said, okay, hold a second. We got to get him. I mean, do not let him leave the premises. And so we stopped, talked about this. We made him an offer, and he accepted right there on the spot. Yeah, it was a good offer.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And Dr. Garland said that they didn't want to leave wherever you were at the time. Now you're pretty good, aren't you guys? Pretty much stealth-like at where you meet people. Sometimes you have to be,
all
right?
The time.
Yeah,
we do it all the time. So my business is like you're part of the CIA. I mean, you can't. No one knows it. I mean, no one knows who I am. No one knows what I look like usually. I mean, I try to stay behind the scene. I don't go to news conferences. I don't do all this. All my competitors, they're out there. I mean, I'm not trying to do this because my job is to get usually the 4 best people in the country into the room so you can make your choice. Here, I was so confident, okay, having done 14 assignments for Baylor, having done all these things, et cetera, for them, having turned it, that I said to them, listen, you're going to know as soon as you do. I mean, he has a demonstrated record of achievement of every category area that Baylor wanted to do, from fundraising to marketing to dealing with trouble to fantastic ability to get along with coaches and build coaches and hire coaches. I mean, he had just done spectacular things at Houston. He was doing great things at Mizzou. He wasn't running anything from Mizzou. I was trying to steal him from there. I tell CEOs when I give talks around the country is that the number one skill today, if you're a CEO, is retention, okay, and recruitment. And of course, I tell them all the time, I said, so what you really want a speech from is a person who knows how to steal all your people. and so my aspect is that he's great at it. No one left except to take a bigger job. I mean, they'd all go to him, to Mac, and say, hey, what should I do? Why? Because as you know him, you guys know him. He's funny. Yeah. He's fun. He always he's never going to let me, if I talk to him, he's never going to start out with not saying to me, Bob, how's Cheryl? How are the girls? What are you doing? He doesn't start out with business. He's not about the deal. He's about the relationship. And that's why he's elite. That's why he's somebody that Baylor never wants to lose as an athletic director. And that's why everybody else in the country, has moved people back and forth and everything, et cetera. But they just don't do that here. So one of the fun parts is you have to keep it quiet. It's so if anybody could find out, and so I build my reputation on confidentiality. And so I build my time on getting to know people so they trust me and they won't see their name leaked. And so that takes a lot of skill. And most universities, they don't spend enough time. And that's when I do. I try to work just directly with presidents to say we need a small committee. And I need to make sure everybody understands that if ever Mac's name was leaked, I mean, that would be like, with your home school, that'd be like you're cheating on your mate. And he wasn't doing any of that. He was looking because he so knew me and so knew the value and the opportunity at Baylor. Because it wasn't like something, having been in Texas, it's the school, it's nationally the school from a Christian perspective that you got to take a strong look at because it's in the Big 12 and it's doing things and it's a leader. And you want your kids to go there. My daughter went to Baylor. I just love this. I just love Baylor. So it's an easy sell for me.
Were you involved in the Rule and Aranda, or one or the other, or both?
Both, and Grove before.
Okay, and Jim Grove, I want to ask you about the Matt Rule. When you guys met with him, wherever that was, at some secretive place, is it true that you mentioned he was going to meet with Oregon, and somebody brought up, that's great because you're going to meet Phil Knight, but you guys knew ahead of time that Phil Knight was not going to be at that meeting?
I knew he was that the situation was that Phil Knight was on a plane with Chip Kelly and Dave Dunn, the big agent, and they were off going to a funeral. And so I didn't know if Phil Knight would not go to that, although he's best friends with Chip and he had all the situation. But the odds were he wasn't going to be there. And they hadn't really had a chance to really get prepared in their search like we did. I mean, we were already prepared. We had everybody in the room. We were in full mode. One of the great parts is once you know who your candidate is that you really love, and Matt Rule he rocked. It's just so many different things. I could spend an hour talking about how fantastic Dave Aranda is.
Oh yeah. Well, we're going to follow up with that one.
Yeah. It's just unbelievable, and how we set up a special place when we met Dave Aranda, and we first brought in his wife first, and she got to talk to the whole committee, so we got her to feel comfortable. That's just a typical Mac Rhodes concept that starts and says, hey, I'm going to make him feel good, right? And wouldn't this be good? And it was. She's just spectacular, and so he's so thorough and all of that kind of stuff. So, but I got to give credit really a lot of things. So when I met Jim Grove 7 years before I had done it, and he was at Wake, and he was introducing me one of his assistants, right? And he wanted help there because he was there. And I turned to him at the end of the meeting. I go, wow, I knew you, Jimmy, but I didn't know you like this. And I said, I'm going to place you one time again before you finish. He goes, oh no, I'm going to finish right here. And this is where it's going to be. And I said, okay. I said, but I'm just telling you, I'm going to do it one more time before you're done. And so he retires and all of that from that. So I call him and I call him one day and I said, hey Jim, where are you? And he goes, I'm on the beach. And I go, really? Fantastic. I said, so what are you doing? He says, I'm about to go on a cruise with my wife. And I said, well, maybe not. And I said, I think I might have something, and it could be really good. It could pay for your grandkids for a little bit more time.
Wow, that's awesome.
And when we talked about it, I just said to him, could you imagine doing something this good? And so is there a finer man than Jim Grove?
No.
Oh, my gosh.
No.
As to go through what he did and what he did, I don't know. He should win. He was just able and should have been given awards.
Yeah,
because
we agree.
he's just so spectacular. And he was the most supportive. He told me when he finished, he goes, you know what? That 6 months, that whole period of time, Bob, he said, I want to tell you, for the rest of my life, I'm a Baylor Bear.
Yep. Wow. And he has.
And that he said, the way they treated me, the way the town treated me, the way the administration treated me, he became best friends with Mac, and he'd do anything for Baylor. He calls me all the time. Grovey does. he's just spectacular. I love him.
Yeah, we're big Groby fans here as well. Bob, I know you got to run soon, but I do want to ask you about Dave Aranda. You mentioned a little bit there as far as how that process got, but I mean, just how unique of a guy is he? Just how special of a coach is he in terms of the people that you've dealt with over the years?
So I don't think I've ever met anybody who came as prepared as he did. I mean, I remember Kevin Gall and I were sitting watching some film of him winning the national championship. And they have this film of him walking out after they win. All the people are over here cheering and doing all this. And of course, his defense, stopped Clemson. I mean, he was doing all that. And he walks out into the middle, of the field. And you can watch him. He takes this big, deep breath. And then he turns around and he starts our search. And that was it. And within a day, we were on him. We already talked to him. We already had him prepared. We had set up a place where we were going to have the house. And so when he came in, we had his wife. It was unbelievable. But when he sat down, and when you start talking about, hey, so tell me about, let's just talk staffing for a second. And so he has this laminated sheet, with every coach and 3 deep in every single area of all the coaches that he would have and who he was going to get.
Laminated doesn't surprise me.
Yeah.
No, of course. But he'd bring in philosophy. He'd bring in history while he talks. He has this special way he coaches kids where he tests them on how they are, whether they can hear, how they learn, right? How do they, if I give you a play, would you learn best from the playbook? Would you look visually? How could I get best? And he tests every one of his players. And so we started to talk about how he does life with his team and his whole thing. And what you start to feel is, dang it, I just want to go over and hug the guy. I want him to be my son's coach. And when you start to listen to his faith, you start to listen to how he treats people, and you look at his face, the determination that he's going to be in. I mean, there was no surprise. I mean, the first year he's in the midst of a dang pandemic. Mm-hmm. Second year he wins the Sugar Bowl.
Yep.
I mean, and so there was no one in our committee, as in zero. I mean, in all of this, we all looked at the end of the first year, and then everyone's like, we said, okay, we're high fiving because he's about to do something that no one's ever done before in just his second year. And everybody should probably, I mean, my goodness, one of the things that you love about people when you can place them is that they're not only just great at what they do, but they're great people. I mean, and they, I always look, my dad always kind of did this, is that people matter most. Our heart knows that God taught us, and yet somehow we've forgotten. And so Dave Aranda hasn't, Scott Drew hasn't, Nikki hasn't. I mean, we start to go through the staff that all of a sudden, that Mac has put together. You start to look at Linda and all the people around you. You start talking about some of the facets of now having, me talking with Jay Allison or all of a sudden having, people that we've had a chance to do with Larry Hurd. I mean, the list of Paul Foster. My gosh. I mean, it's just crazy. And we go back to Drayton and David Brooks and Jim Turner and Ron Murph and Reagan Ramsauer. I mean, so the list of people, it's really interesting, but all of these people, people ask us all the time, so what's the one thing that's going to get a job? And so, I always get a kick, is we did a study when we did a thing for a bunch of women coaches who were coming in from a group to ask us that question. What's the one way I'm going to get the job? And it's never one thing, right? It's kind of this word, Kevin had thought about it called monocausality. And so there's 150 things that have to be good. And so all the people that we had are just not just somewhat good for this job. I mean, they're the best in class. I mean, they could be anywhere in the country, and you know where they want to be? Baylor.
Yeah. No, and they want to be here a long time. I know Matt had his other goals as well. Bob, I got to wrap it up with this. When you and Scott Drew are in the same room together, is that like almost like the world might explode with the energy that you two have?
I mean, you always love this. So Scott, early in his time, he would call me he'd be recruiting. He's got 45 minutes left. He spent his whole day, juicing. And he goes, okay, I got 45 minutes to get home. It's 10:30 at night. Tell Cheryl you got to go in the other room because you're going to have to give me some.
Yeah.
You're going to have to juice me. And then we do it. And so between the two of us, and of course I have brother Bryce at Grand Canyon. Mm-hmm. And so, and Homer's could be again, when you work with your dad, when people work with their dads and sons and this whole process, it's just a blessing when you have other people who do it. And so I think energy kind of begets energy. And so when I'm with him, I don't like Scott Drew. I love it.
Yeah. Kevin Gall, you mentioned Kevin. I know he's spoken incredibly highly of you. Obviously, Cheryl Gotchis was, because it's a personnel thing, wasn't going to be able to come on and share her side of this as well, but so many people were involved. When you were called the most influential man in sports that you've never heard of by Sports Illustrated, what did that mean to you?
To me, that's so fantastic. I want God to get all the glory. All my success is because of him and two chairs, spending time having a personal conversation. I get a minute to talk. He gets 4. But I tell you what, you got someone really special with Kevin Gall there. He's smart, strategic. Mm-hmm. He loves people. And so he's going to do great and mighty things there as well.
Bob, thank you very much, man. It's great to have you on. We could talk for a long, long time and maybe again very soon as we wanted to get through it. As all the success Baylor's having to go back and look at the search that landed. It didn't take long to land what Mack Rhoades has done. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Hey, thank you for having me on.
You too. Bob Bodine, President, CEO, Eastman and Bodine. And I'm telling you right now, here are some of the things he's been part of senior leadership with: NBA, Major League Baseball, NFL, NHL franchises, league offices, PGA Tour, U.S. Tennis Association, Bull Riding Association, U.S. Olympics, NASCAR, and UFC. That's just some of what he's done. When we come back, the Baylor women's basketball team hammered Oklahoma State, and we'll hear from Tony Green, one of the assistant coaches on Nikki Collins' staff, next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. You got a lot of great deals going on right now at Richard Carr. And they want you to get on their inbound vehicle list. Get on their inbound vehicle list. That means you can get your new car or truck as soon as they arrive on the lot. But got to make sure you get your name on that list. The longer you wait, the lower down that list you are, and the longer you're waiting for a car. But they are trying to make it as easy as possible to get you into a car today. March means 23 years in the automotive business for Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. And in those 23 years, they've sold the best trucks and cars on the road, offering first-class vehicles you can trust. And Richard Carr wants to thank Waco and Central Texas for their support over the years, and they look forward to many more to come. Right now, new GMC trucks and GMC Buick and Cadillac SUVs are on their way. As I mentioned, it's time to get on that inbound vehicle list so you can get your new car or truck as they arrive. And with summer vacation season approaching, remember that Richard Carr has 11 different SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. They are a one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs. So call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family this summer. And if you're not looking to buy new, they are also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All have gone through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and they have over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you into a car today. As 100% credit approval is always their goal. It's anniversary month at Richard Carr. Trust the good local people you can count on for 23 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans, proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today. Call now. Go see them now. Off Highway 6, the Imperial exit.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302. Do
you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months, and it's a happy experience. It's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8-year-old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive. It's a staple of the Waco economy. And you're about to approach this time of the year where you have the holidays, special gifts. It's not that you don't have that every single day. What are some of the things you have coming up?
You know, we kind of call ourselves the wedding ring store. We do all of our own custom work in-house. I've got 2 expert jewelers on staff every day. We can make anything from scratch. We kind of pride ourselves, probably 9 out of 10 every engagement ring we do is actually made custom to what the customer wants.
People look at that, oh my God, I can't afford it. I can't afford something like that. You've shown me examples that you could fit pretty much any budget.
It doesn't cost any more to custom make something. You still have gold, you still have diamonds, and you still have labor. Best thing about a custom piece is if you have any old jewelry or heirloom jewelry or something passed down from a grandma or somebody, we can take that jewelry and use it towards your wedding ring for the sentimental value, and then you've got the product, and then it's just a little bit of labor and a little bit of design on your part of what you actually want.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
We are now joined by Tony Green, assistant coach, and Nikki Collins, staff of the Baylor women's basketball team that is on fire and destroyed Oklahoma State earlier today in Kansas City. Tony, thank you again for your time and appreciate your patience with us today. I mean, it's not as if you guys needed to send a statement because of the way you've played of late, but my goodness, could you have played 23-0? Have you ever been a part of a game of nothing at the end of a quarter or a half?
David, I have never been a part of it. I've never seen it before. Hats off to our girls. They were really locked in, and they just did a great job. And they didn't make a lot of mistakes defensively. They did their job pretty well today.
What is it? I mean, what do you say after you pitch a shutout in a quarter? I mean, I know you can always do better, but I mean, still, it's hard to do better.
It's so funny you said that. I remember walking into the huddle after the first quarter was over with, and I just gave them high fives and told them stay locked in. I mean, there's not a lot to correct. Our effort was good. Our attention to detail was awesome, and they came out ready to play.
What's it like just being out on the road, having the success you guys are having, being able to spend time together and continue developing those relationships, but having success along with that at the same time?
Well, honestly, it's not a lot of time to enjoy it because you're on to the next game and the season is moving pretty fast right now, especially now in the tournament time. You're just trying to. I think the main thing that you have to do at this stage of the season is just try to stay focused and keep the right mindset, the right mojo going, making sure your girls are happy, having fun, locked in, and just keep them in the right mindset. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Tony Green, assistant coach, Baylor, they hammered Oklahoma State, and now you have Oklahoma up next. And the possibility, well, you've met them. You have a little bit of work to do with them. You had the very tough loss, especially in that game at home. Your thoughts about getting a chance to get them again?
Well, it's going to be a challenge for us. I think our girls are up for it. Oklahoma does cause some problems for us. But I think there are some things that we control that we could do a better job at in the next game, and hopefully we can pull it out. They are very good, well coached. They have really good players in every position. They play small ball, and it's going to be a really good game. We're looking forward to it.
Tony, what's it been like to work with Nalissa Smith? She's obviously had a fantastic year. The future is very bright for her. Obviously, the present's what's most important. But just what's it been like watching her work and seeing her talent up close and personal?
It's been a true joy. Nalissa, being the type of player that she is, such a great talent. She is so receptive to coaching, which is it's rare. Sometimes being in the position that she was in, she comes from a very successful staff. She's had a very successful career at Baylor, and then the rug gets pulled out from up under her. But her ears was wide open. She bought in, and you know what? She's had our back since Nikki took the job, and it's been awesome. She's a great person to coach, easy to coach. And things that we've asked her to do that challenges her, she's been really receptive to it.
Could she have made that dunk if she went on the other side of the rim like she claims on Twitter?
I think she took off a little bit too far out. But I've seen her dunk the ball before. But I think she was probably probably one step outside of her launching range. But yeah, I think she was a little excited and took off a little bit too far.
Have you ever been a part of a team as a coach in all the places you've been, Tony, or even as a player as well, where you've had somebody who's a superstar, and she is, that was also that much of a teammate and unselfish?
I've never coached a talent. A person as talented as Nalissa. She's a franchise player, period, point blank. And she's very humble. And I have it, sometimes you have kids who are not that talented, and they're pretty hard to coach. Nalissa is an exception to a lot of things, and it's just been a true blessing coaching her.
Tony, I know that right now the focus is on the present, but a few days ago there was a couple of announcements of players that will be coming back for next year in Bickle and Asbury. There's a lot of excitement from Baylor fans. What does that say about the culture going on right now, and what does that mean for the program moving forward, that you're going to have a couple of players that maybe weren't going to be back that have now made that public?
Well, we are really excited to have Bickle and Jamie Asbury back. I tell you, it says a lot about our head coach, Nikki, that they want to come back and play for her. And also it says a lot about our fans and our university, to where they embrace it. They love being a part of it, and they want one more year. And so I think it says a lot about all of those different aspects of everything.
I know the team's going through the recovery phase after the game, kind of get their legs and treatment and all that. Then you guys have a meal. Want to not keep you too far from that as well. Tony, that was unbelievable. 23-0. And like you said, you'd never been a part of that. When you talk about pitching a shutout, you don't use that term in basketball. That's still kind of hard to fathom. But thanks for your time. Great to have you on when we did it, a week or two ago. We had a chance to visit with you for such a long time. And good luck moving forward against Oklahoma to get them. and of course, eventually moving forward. Do you feel like if you guys run the table in Kansas City, with Louisville losing in the ACC, will you get a number 1 seed?
I think we deserve it, Smoak. If that happens, I do think we deserve it. But it's not. Honestly, it's really not about the seeding. Do I think we deserve it? Yes. It doesn't matter if you're 1 or 2 or 3. You still have to win. You're gonna have to either be a number 1 seed or beat the number 1 seed to be a national champion. So we're just gonna stay focused on what we control, which is how to beat Oklahoma tomorrow.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate the time. Really enjoy talking to you.
Appreciate you guys.
Appreciate
you guys. You guys do an awesome job. You guys keep it up.
Thank you. Tony Green, women's basketball assistant coach. They crushed Oklahoma State today and move into the semifinals. Oklahoma tomorrow in Kansas City.
Yeah, good stuff from Tony and good stuff from the women earlier today. I mean, left no doubts. I got to say that the men have turned into the Dallas Cowboys, of where every game is like hold your breath, hold your fingernails, and just anxiety ridden. Whereas the Baylor women, they just like, nope, you're not gonna have to worry about anything today. We're gonna let this be known after pretty early on. Like we're not gonna have trouble with this. But man, those Baylor men's games lately have felt like just a roller coaster of emotions at times.
All right, we're going to come back.
I'd like to see a blowout here. I mean, it'd be nice.
Yeah,
that way
fun.
Our text chain is a little shorter.
Yeah, and speaking of text, I think we'll do it. We have Jason King, his thoughts about Baylor moving forward, not even so much, we'll discuss last night, but moving forward as they go to the NCAA tournament, also the seeding. Updates on the games earlier, if you did not know. A&M upset Auburn 67-62, which is really good news for Baylor because Auburn was right there on the edge of a number 1 seed, and they won bracketology. They were. Arkansas beat LSU by 12. La Tech knocked out Grant McCaslin and company 42-36 in the semis of Conference USA. Indiana and Iowa advance. Indiana beating Illinois. That's a good big win because they're trying to get secured in the tournament. And then also Houston beat Cincinnati in the American quarterfinal, 69-56. SMU plays Tulsa at 6 tonight. Big 12, Kansas, TCU, and Oklahoma against Texas Tech.
Yeah, no, we have a couple minutes here. I mean,
all
right. Paul, let's talk about the Dallas Cowboys and a couple of moves that they made today, releasing Greg Zuerlein.
Update the Deshaun Watson thing real quick for those who just now joined us, though.
He can play football unless the NFL comes out with a punishment. His charges are done. His criminal complaints are done. That coming out earlier today. Side note to that, Adam Schefter is a schmuck and a mouthpiece for the Deshaun Watson side of things, and that was very clear today. He should know better and he should be better. And we're months removed from him doing something else that was
with Bruce Allen.
Yeah, I mean, get your stuff together, Schefter. I mean, I'm never gonna be on your level, have the Twitter followers and all that, and that's fine. But man, at least I can look in the mirror. Like, come on, dude. Like, what are you doing? But point being, Deshaun Watson is going to be free and clear to play football. The one barrier now is just what the NFL does and what they do as far as a punishment. We've seen what they've done over the years. It doesn't matter if you get a criminal charge or not. You still
Zeke Elliott.
Yeah, exactly. Zeke, you can still get suspended.
Ben Roethlisberger.
Ben Roethlisberger. There's a lot of examples. So that remains to be seen with Deshaun Watson. But in terms of any hurdles to him, playing football, that's the only one now. It's no longer a law and order matter now. I'm sure there will be settlements and things like that, but in terms of guilty and going to jail, that's not going to happen for Deshaun Watson. So
no, and here's the thing. I've seen a lot of people try, there's no defending. You can't really defend him because you don't know what happened, and that's the tactic you need to take. We'll talk about it in the factual realm of he's going to play football, he's going to net back these draft picks, and this will be the salary cap hit for the new team, and the Texans will move on. But there's 22 cases out there that we'll never know what happened. We'll never know.
Yeah.
We will never know.
I've already seen the folks out there, and I realize that some people just aren't equipped with the most brain cells, so you got to take that into account sometimes. I've already seen so charge the women. And it's like, no. That's not how it works. Like, I don't think, all 22 women were just like, let's gang up and lie about Deshaun Watson. So that does not mean that they were all lying. So let's get that very clear. But yeah, that's a big story today. Obviously, some of the teams that are being mentioned, Seattle Seahawks, because of the Russell Wilson trade, they would seem like an ideal candidate, and there's some others as well. But going back to that Cowboys note, Paul releasing kicker Greg Zuerlein and also waiving Blake Jarwin, who's had injury issues, obviously.
Blake Jarwin's a true bummer because when they signed him, it looked like a really smart move to grab somebody who was clearly on the come up. But he was injured, nonstop injured, and now this injury may be career-ending that he has. They have to do what they have to do. They're going to save about $4 million against the cap. Greg Zuerlein, they had to cut.
Had Jarwin been healthy, they don't franchise tag Dalton Schultz.
No,
right?
they don't. Yeah, Blake Jarwin changed a lot of their organizational plans by being hurt because now they need to do something for the tight end position. I look, I was excited when they signed Greg Zuerlein, but they lost 3 games this year because they can't make kicks.
A
couple of other, just looks like we got NFL here. Max Crosby, Raiders, 4-year, $98.98 million extension.
Yeah, great story for Max Crosby coming back from the depths of alcoholism to be one of the best players in the league and sober, an example for people. I'm fired up for him.
You got to be a Raider when your name is MAXX, Max.
Yep, and also Jason Kelce, highest paid center now in football, 1-year, $14 million contract with the Philadelphia Eagles. So
stud. Yeah. It's a great family
down as well.
The Eagles put out every team picture a year for Jason Kelce, who is, that guy's never paying for a cheesesteak, Jason Kelce.
No.
Yeah, they love him in Philly. He is absolutely one of the kings of that town. Nobody will ever throw a block of ice at him. He is beloved.
We will come back with Jason King, college basketball writer. His thoughts about Baylor moving forward. Was last night just a hickey? Was it something maybe that will stick a little bit longer? They are still very much in the play for a number 1 seed, but we'll discuss that with Jason in the next segment. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Right now, tonight until 6, you've got about an hour. And then throughout the day when they're open tomorrow, Waco Custom Marketplace, here are the specials that they have. If you like pork chops, boneless or bone-in, $1.75 for the boneless pork chops and $2.25 for the bone-in. Whole chickens at $1.50. And these are plump, big chickens. They're great. And you can have one for have them for $1.50 a pound. Maple breakfast sausage patties for $2.50 a pound. Smoked pork tenderloin for $3.99 a pound. By the way, that butcher shop, which has beef, pork, poultry, and seafood, fresh black drum for $12.25 a pound. Chuck roast, $4.99 a pound, and tri-tip for $4.50 a pound. And then they have 30-pound sacks of live crawfish where you can order by 6 o'clock Wednesday when they shut down and pick up anytime after Friday at 4 or through the day on Saturday. 30-pound sacks of live crawfish. Based on each week, the price per pound will change. It's usually in that $4 or so and change neighborhood. Order by 6 Wednesday, pick up after Friday at 4 o'clock. The Bauer family, great people, great business, butcher shop and bakery, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Ram Truck Month is here, and it's all about the championship drive as our hometown teams march towards another exciting championship drive. And so can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. Shop for power, performance, and reliability with the brands that bring you what you want to drive. Come in today and see our selection of new 2022 trucks, SUVs, and cars. It's time to take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco. Shop the huge inventory of new car and truck inventory in stock today.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
Pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
And now the short pitch to Smith, and Smith spins out of it. And Smith inside the 15, looking for the corner, and gets it. Touchdown, Bears. DeAndre Coburn whipped at the line of scrimmage, and Smith sped off for 32 yards and a score.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Tom Albers, staying in touch with you and your money through these difficult and changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Jason King, Sikkim 365 basketball analyst, national writer, joins us. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Jason, thank you, sir. Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak with you. They blew a tire last night. I know Oklahoma shot the ball crazy from three, but how disappointing was that, in your opinion, after they had made such a surge to end the regular season?
Yeah, I was disappointed with how they played, and I think Scott Drew said it best. I just felt like the energy was there. It's easy to say Oklahoma was shooting lights out, but when you're not in their face and contesting the shots, I mean, there's a lot of college players that are going to go 11 to 21 from three. I just felt like they were getting great looks. They were moving the ball. Baylor just didn't seem to have that extra pep in its step that it's had, so much of the last 2 or 3 weeks of the regular season. So, to tell you the truth, though, I mean, when you really look at the numbers, Baylor goes 3 of 20 from three. One of their best players, Adam Flagler, scores 2 points. Obviously, Cryer doesn't play, and they still end up losing by only 5 points to what I think is a really underrated Oklahoma team. I never like it when Baylor loses, but I tell you what, I think in the long run it might be a good thing. They'll get those extra few days. It'll be a bit of a wake-up call. I think they're going to come out with some really good energy next week.
Do you think that they will be knocked off the one line?
Well, Auburn losing today, I think, helps Baylor's cause to be a one seed. The thing is, I'm not sure it matters, even if they are one seed. And I'm going a lot, as you guys probably do, by what Lenardi is saying. But I mean, if they're the fourth number one seed or the first number two, I mean, they could still end up being, out of San Antonio. That's why I think that loss hurt them, is because, you'd think they'd want to start close to home and play in San Antonio. And I think if they would have won that in the Sweet 16, if they were to make it, I think if they were to have won that game last night, we would have seen that. Now it's all kind of up in the air. But I remember when I used to cover Kansas a long time ago, Bill Self used to say he didn't like playing those regionals in Kansas City or somewhere really close where they have tons of fans. It seems like a great advantage, but it also, puts a lot of extra pressure on the players. They see the fans in the hotel. They see them out in the streets, and I think it just kind of makes them tight. It can make a player at least tighten up a little bit. And sometimes when teams get a little bit further away from home, the huddle gets a little bit tighter. They feel like everyone's against them, and they seem to play a little bit better. So, them not getting San Antonio, I mean, it could be a good thing too. Who knows?
So, Jason, I mean, they are who they are, and it's tournament time. So there's not, a game between now and then where it's like, okay, they got to do a little bit. They are who they are. So going into the tournament now, what is their greatest strength in your mind, and what is their biggest weakness entering tournament play?
Well, I think their greatest strength is probably, when they are playing at a high level defensively. I think they're really, really good. And I think another one is just that when they're playing that lineup with Sohan in there, they're just a tough matchup. It's so unorthodox with, a smaller lineup, Sohan at the 5, Brown in there. I think that can give teams a lot of fit. So they're a hard team to play, with those guys. I think the weakness is just obviously their depth, and their weakness too right now is they're not 100%. I mean, even the guys that are playing are hobbled. They're slow. Flagler's not up to par. They don't have Cryer. Myers, up and down with his scoring. So I think they're just really struggling from a consistency standpoint. And I do worry about them having to play, 2 games in 48 hours or whatever it is, with facing that kind of a situation. So I think that, when I look at some of these potential 8 and 9 seeds, I mean, I was looking at it earlier, North Carolina, Marquette, Michigan State, schools like that, San Diego State, these are TCU. These are good teams, teams that I don't even know if it would be a huge upset to beat Baylor right now, considering where Baylor is, personnel wise. So, sorry guys, I was just getting out of a cab, but,
that's okay.
So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be really interesting. Nothing would really surprise me in this tournament. I mean, I don't even think we're in a state right now in college basketball where we can just write off a 16 seed. We saw Virginia a couple of years ago, a year after winning the national title, get beat by a 16 seed. I mean, if Baylor goes out and it isn't locked in and it doesn't defend, which they really didn't last night very well, nothing would surprise me. But I think I've been so impressed with what they've done over the last 3 or 4 weeks, shorthanded, winning, I think, 5 or 6 there at the end or whatever it was. Way to the Big 12 title. I mean, I think this is the best coaching job Scott Drew has done. And what happened, I think, this season.
I know you're traveling. Yeah, you're on the road traveling. Are you looking for Baylor's 3-point shot?
Yeah, I can't find it. I mean, 3 of 20 last night. I mean, Dale Bonner had missed 16 in a row over the course of a number of games before he made that one last night. Sohan hadn't been able to hit anything at all from back there until the buzzer was about to sound last night. He finally sank one, and Meyer obviously has been struggling. So, when you're counting on Adam Flagler that heavily from 3 and he scores 2 points last night, it's amazing that they kept the game as close as it did. I'll be interested to see. I sure wish LJ Cryer could heal up a little bit more and give them a little something, because that really changes the dynamic of their offense.
By the way, an update, it's the semifinals of Conference USA. UAB 95, Middle Tennessee 89 in triple overtime.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, and the winner will get Louisiana Tech, who knocked out Grant McCaslin and UNT earlier this afternoon. Paul?
Jason, who do you think is tops on the list for the K-State job?
Oh, gosh. I haven't looked into it. A few weeks ago, the names that were – because I think everyone knew this was coming. And, I heard Grant McCaslin's name tossed around. The Drake coach, Darren DeVries, popular name, simply because he would bring his son, who was a really good player, along with him. Leon Rice has been doing great things at Boise State for a long time. I would have said Steve Forbes at Wake Forest. He's a Midwest guy, but he just got locked up to a big contract. So I don't know. I think with that K-State job, it's important to find a good fit. I mean, those fans want a certain type of guy. They want the gritty, hard-nosed guy that's kind of like one of them. And it's sad to me that Bruce Weber can go in there and win 2 league titles, which they hadn't done since 1977, and people didn't like him at all. I mean, so they don't want to just a good coach. They want a personality, I think, and a real blue-collar kind of guy. So that's what I think that they should at least try to target to make those fans happy, because those fans have a really warped description of who they are, I think, sometimes.
Jason, what are your thoughts on Oklahoma after that big win over Baylor? Obviously, they're playing for something, and then there's Texas Tech meet up later on tonight, late tip time. But Red Raiders and Sooners, what are your thoughts on that semifinal?
Man, first of all, I can't believe Texas Tech won as big as it did last night. Kudos to them. But I love what I saw from Oklahoma. I mean, I not just the way they shared the ball and moved it, got good quality shots, and were aggressive attacking the rim, but just their energy and their spunk. And I mean, they have 4 top 50. I think they'll come out with good energy again. I think that'll be the best game of the day, probably even better than the Kansas TCU game. I'd still lean with Texas Tech. Watching that one.
Jason, one quick question, and if I know you got to go as you're traveling. If in fact Oklahoma, and I don't know if they'll even, obviously Texas Tech could take them out, and should take them out. But if they were to pull off the shocker this weekend in Kansas City, would that be 7 teams in the Big 12, or could that knock out Iowa State?
I think it would probably be. I mean, first of all, I'm shocked that Iowa State's on that 8-9 line or whatever I saw them at last night or this morning. I don't think they deserve that at this point. But I don't. If they're in that situation, I think they would probably save. I think Oklahoma will be in it. We'd see 7 Big 12 teams. Okay. What I think. I think it'd be great for the league. And I think they would probably deserve it. It's hard to imagine winning 5 games against top 15 teams and not getting in. I think that'd be ridiculous. So I hope they do it. I hope they do.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate it as always. Jason King, Sikkim 365, basketball writer and analyst with us on the show here today on last night's quarterfinals. And tonight we head into Kansas and TCU, and then also the Oklahoma game against Texas Tech. Now, when we come back, a couple of you in the chat room said you wanted to know what Bob Bodine, whatever he was taking, you want whatever it is. Can you imagine he and Scott Drew, though, in the same room?
Oh, that's
it would. I mean, the world would just between us.
That's a lot of positivity. Yeah. in one spot.
God, he was great. We may save that one and wrap that up and put that up in a bow again on another show here just around the corner.
Well, easy to see how he deals with people.
Oh my Lord, yeah.
See why he's good at his job.
One of the things he mentioned about Mac, remember he said about how personable he. Remember that when Mac was hired, Paul, we had him on that day, and we were told by the Missouri writer, you'll get no access with him. And the first time we talked with him, we're like, my God, he gave us 25 minutes.
We asked him afterwards about when we met him, like, hey, we were told that you weren't going to be accessible, and it really hurt his feelings. Yeah, he's like, I don't know why that guy thinks that, and in fact, other people, when I asked about him, said, oh yeah, he'll talk to you all the time, but he's always been fantastic.
All right, we're open until Paul's top 5. At the end of the hour, 254-339-1122. And since he missed yesterday, we'll do a top 10.
Top 10? Well, I only did 5.
By the way, next time you're going to miss the entire show, which I knew you didn't know because of Woodrow and the medicine, you had to be careful with watching him as he had been taking some medicine. Paul, next time you're going to miss the top 5, Craig's going to throw up the wrestling.
Yeah, sure. 5. That's great.
Are we allowed the copyright infringement?
I mean, there's fees. There's certainly fees, but for you guys, my people will work with it.
Your people?
My people. Yeah, I got people.
I wish
I need people. Here's the deal. I know who I want my people to be. I want my people to be Bob Bodine.
Yeah, that's what
I really want.
How about if I have Bob Bodine and you could have anybody else you want?
Yeah,
right?
I know. All I want.
I'll take that.
I would love for one day Bob Bodine, who now has my cell phone number, to just call me and go, "Hey, I got a great job for you."
Yeah, absolutely.
I would love it. It would be the best day of my life. Whatever you say, Bob. Let's go.
From Phil Benzer, hello 65. It's basketball crazy here in Vegas. I mentioned Phil. I mentioned you yesterday. You were there. About 10 games so far. Got the Pac-12 doubleheader tonight. 2 championship games tomorrow. Soak it in next week. March Madness on St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Pac-12 fans last night complaining about the lack of exposure that they're getting. And that's due to time zones and TV contract and all of that. But I've seen it before at times, but I really saw a lot of it last night. With their tournament going on. There's a lot of people complaining. And Kleofkoff had made some comments. He was talking about a few different things, including his comments on the playoff where he said, I'm not talking about it anymore till we're actually doing something, which I can appreciate that. But that was the Pac-12 commissioner saying, I'm not talking about the playoff anymore until there's actually something to talk about. So, maybe that slows down this whole little thing that we did these last few months where they're, let's talk about the playoff, and then nothing gets done. So he's not going to be a part of those conversations, in that way any longer. But yeah, I mean, there's a major issue with the Pac-12 and exposure. You got some good basketball teams, but not as many people as probably do know that, because they are in bed by the time your games are being played. Absolutely. Half the time. And, and they're probably suffering tremendously from being underrated in a lot of these major sports because of that. I mean, you can have the record and all that, but if nobody's really watching you, then they don't know to turn around and talk about you the next day and talk about your players or the great coaching job or whatever. They just see a box score, that happened 2 hours after they went to bed last night, and like, okay, cool for the Pac-12, but all right, Big 12, Big 10, talk about everybody else. And
here's what I have to do.
That is something they gotta figure out.
Like Arizona beat Stanford, and then I had to look, okay, who else is still out? I had to go search for it. Well, and I should know that based on my timeline of my apps and stuff like that.
Here is something that the Pac-12 network and the Pac-12 TV deal needs to focus on. And I know that networks will tell you, we want a game in this time slot and that time slot and that time slot. And what the Pac-12 honestly has an argument for is that doing anything for either of us? Mm-mm. Is that why can't the Pac-12 play all their games at 3:30 Central or Eastern time? Whatever. Split them up.
3:30 would be 12:30.
Well, yeah. Essentially you have noon and 3 o'clock kicks all throughout the Pac-12. Why can't you do that?
This is from Sam Connon. I don't know who he's with, but the first 7 games of the Pac-12 men's basketball tournament were broadcast by the Pac-12 network. For the tournament as a whole, 8 of the 11 will only be on the Pac-12 network. I don't even know if I have it, to be perfectly honest with you. I don't even know. Yeah. And I probably don't. But 3 games on FS1 Fox. So the 3 games that they did not or will not have on the Pac-12 network, do you know what their start times are? 11:30 Eastern, 11:30 Eastern, and 9 p.m. Eastern. So, I mean, if you're on the West Coast, cool. That's like 8 o'clock something. But, I mean, still, that's 11:30 start time on the East Coast. I'm not watching that if I'm some New Yorker randomly flipping through hoops. That's way too late. Conan asked Kleofkoff when he was talking about the Pac-12 network and especially the men's basketball tournament, and Kleofkoff said, I'm very happy with the number of games that we produce at the Pac-12 network and the quality of those games we produce. I'm not happy with the distribution of the Pac-12 network. I've been very public about that. It's part of what we're going to fix when we renegotiate our media rights at the end of the current term. So that's obviously a heavy priority for them. And like I said, I just happened to see a lot more talk about that on my timeline last night than I typically do. But I've definitely seen that talk before, and it is a major, if not the major issue that the Pac-12 is facing.
All right. I didn't even know. I had to go back and look at who else is alive in there. Paul, open the lines up if you don't mind. We'll go to calls in the next segment. 254-339-1122. We'll come back with chat room, and also that 254-339-1122 is also the text line, which we'd love to hear from you on that as well. One note, the PGA Tour is at the Players' Championship with this massive, massive purse. And, of course, it's the Players' Championship, which is almost not a major, but it's sometimes is thought of as the next level right after it. They haven't even finished the first round, and they're in a delay until tomorrow. Here's the problem. So it's dark. obviously, right? Thunderstorms going on throughout the evening, all the way until 9 o'clock the local time in Florida. Then they have not finished the first round. Tomorrow morning at 4 a.m., all throughout most of the day, morning, thunderstorms for the first 4 or 5 hours of the morning, and then maybe starts to get back and windy. They've got a lot of room to make up for that tournament at the Players' Championship in Ponte Vedra, Florida. When we come back, 254-339-1122, and we'll read the chat, and we'll discuss men's basketball, and we have some of that NFL news, if you'd like to chew on that as well. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, with new incentives, discounts, and more as they continue, of course, what they've been doing through this championship drive into March Madness. Ram Truck Month is here. 2022 Ram 1500 Quad Cab, the Lone Star. Total values of up to $8,500. $8,500, or get $3,000 in bonus cash with 2.9% financing for 72 months. And first responders get an extra $500 also on top of that. The 2022 Wagoneer Series 2 and 3. The car that the SUV I drove, it's fantastic. 2.9% for 72 months plus $1,500 in bonus cash for all first responders, an extra $500, an incredible vehicle, spacious with all the amenities that you could imagine. When we discuss Ram, back-to-back Motor Trend Truck of the Year, Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, because of all the connections and networking they have with all their own dealerships, they have cars, pre-owned, used, new, of course, on the lot. Tell Ted Teague and staff when you go by there that Smokey sent you. Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. AlanSamuelsDCJ.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Texas Farm Bureau Insurance has protected fellow Texans with auto, home, health, and life insurance since 1952. With more than 260,000 square miles of land and 27 million people, that's a lot to cover. Whether you're wrangling cattle or wrangling kids, we're proud to protect Texans in all Texan ways of life.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T as board-certified physician consultations will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? by not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference, and that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Alan Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Show memo. Hey guys, send a prayer. 2 Joplin, Missouri police officers gunned down. Thanks for show. I did not know that. There's a lot of times when we're on the air, there could be things that are going on. We, of course, know what's happening with Ukraine, and there could be things that go on, and we appreciate you updating us on those, and our prayers are with those fallen officers and also their families and the Joplin, Missouri Police Department. Also, let's see here from Phil. If Vegas threw a ton of money to the Big 12 to move their tournament, would they bite? I do think that sometimes there's always that concern about Kansas City because it's right there. It's a great place to host a basketball tournament. It's basketball nuts. I know that Baylor and Tech and TCU and Texas fans, you hear about the complaints. They've tried Dallas. It did not work. They've tried. It won't work in Oklahoma City. That's where it's going to be. But if they put up money, hey, here's an extra $1 million.
The problem with the Big 12 tournament moving out of Kansas City is, I mean, Dallas is not going to, and Dallas does a pretty good job of hosting stuff, but they're not going to do everything that Kansas City does for it. They're not set up for it. Kansas City has a nice compact downtown around the arena. It's perfect for it. Dallas does not have that. Oklahoma City would be the next best choice as far as just where you could kind of keep all the people
Is that
going.
Large enough to host?
Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
Yes
They've
and no.
hosted regionals, I think, before.
But the bottom line is that Dallas doesn't really care if they get it or not, and if they do, they're kind of just, I don't know, kind of fronting on it, I think, a little bit. So I don't. Kansas City's better for it, and people can complain about, not enough people go, or, the more teams are in the South and things have changed and all that, but they care about it. The better basketball teams tradition-wise are in the North. No offense to the team we cover the most, but they're kind of a Johnny-come-lately to being, elite. So, yeah, I mean,
Other than when Arkansas, and I could be dead wrong here, but other when Arkansas was in the Southwest Conference, Dallas and hosted at Reunion Arena, which now, of course, it would be American Airlines, the new one, but Arkansas would flood that place. I wonder if they did Dallas, how much would the Kansas fans and those basketball fans, Iowa State, they travel well, would be interesting how much they would do that. Kansas City, I hate to see that. Cities that host the smallest events, whether it's junior college up to the NCAA tournament, they put a lot of time and effort into that. I like Kansas City. I haven't been there in 4 years. Craig was there for a half a day. Paul, you've been there numerous times, and I've been there numerous times. I have no problem with it being in Kansas City.
Okay, so what about the question about Las Vegas? I mean, they would take, if they could get a bunch of money, they would absolutely take that. But I do think Kansas City has a special little carve out, as far as just their location and the proximity to a lot of the especially basketball hungry schools. And I wish I could talk more about it. I've only spent 27 hours in Kansas City.
Well,
so that's the city I will always link with the very beginning of COVID, as I talked about a couple days ago.
I'll say this. One of the things you get with Kansas City that you cannot, and they tried in Dallas, and it might have been just the fact that none of the teams in Texas were all that good then.
And Dallas is just so spread out.
It really is spread out. It was not a great city to host the Super Bowl.
No.
And that was not. God. That was not even wet. Like, you take the weather out of it, it still would have been kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah, it's like 30 minutes to pretty much do anything that you're looking to do.
We've been to Super Bowls. I've been to every one, but now a couple of them or so since 27. I don't remember any city, not even Los Angeles, not New York, that was ever more of a cluster of space involved than I know the ice storm was there as well than Dallas. It was spread out so far.
But even if you had taken the weather out of it, you were still going to be spread out far doing all these different events.
Because they want to do Dallas and they want to do
Arlington. You want to go to Fort Worth.
Just make sure everybody wins a ribbon.
And so the Cotton Bowl's nice because they host, like, it's just the Cotton Bowl. It's in Arlington. The hotels are here, and here, that's where you are. That's it. But when you get to the Super Bowl, it's so ridiculously knocked out. And the Big 12 tournament's kind of like that because you got all these teams coming in. Where are you going to be? With Kansas City, you can guarantee that when Kansas plays, which
is a sellout.
And that's probably more than, like, they usually don't lose their first game, so you're going to get more than one sellout. So you're guaranteed 2 sellouts. Are you guaranteed even one if you do it in Dallas? No. And then you throw Kansas State in the mix, that's probably another sellout. If Oklahoma State is good, or Oklahoma, that's also some sellouts that you get, as where the Texas teams, quite frankly, just not pushing sellouts where they are playing in the conference.
There's a thread on Sikkim 365 when they're talking about they're discussing the site and you know, even Ashley Hodge is a partner of Sikkim 365. I think he's more upset right now because he wasted money to go up there for a day.
I did think about all the Baylor fans or just anybody else who traveled up there only to see the team lose. I mean, that was my KC trip, basically. It was the same. It would have been the same as whether COVID had canceled everything shortly after I arrived or Baylor had lost their first game and then you'd be forced to go home. Like, it was pretty much the same thing. But, yeah, that's got to be massively disappointing.
You know, I'm going to read some of these comments about it. There is absolutely zero reason to have it in Kansas City any longer. I can think of many reasons you should. Connection to that city was based on teams in the Big 12, close proximity. That is no longer the case. It should be moved to Dallas. Well, why would you move it? Well, then what about the schools that are in Kansas and Iowa? Now, it is Missouri, and Missouri is no longer a part of the Big 12, but Kansas City, Missouri is Kansas and Kansas State and Iowa State, among others.
But if you
have it in Dallas, there are teams that they're the proximity. You have Baylor, TCU, Texas Tech. That's still a pretty far drive. Austin's 4 hours. Oklahoma's 3 hours, maybe 2.5. And then eventually, if you have Houston, that's not far either, as well. So I get it because you can't win there. But Baylor not winning in Kansas City 3-7 the last 7 years is not because it's in Kansas City. It's because they haven't played that well in the tournament. Period.
And look, you want the tournament to go to Dallas. Everybody that has Texas fan bases get together and promise to go.
That's the key. That's it. Well, it's like the Big 12 championship game. It's in Arlington, and it's been very successful there. It's in a more football hotbed state, right next, of course, Oklahoma just south. They're always in it seems like, and they have been, or Oklahoma State this last year with Baylor. And I see this argument. I see this way. Well, they're always, go win. Go win it. Yes, it's been, for the most part, the trend is that the schools in Texas don't win the Big 12 conference tournament in Kansas City. Texas won it last year. And it was like maybe the first time ever. I can't remember. So that's one of the things in the chat room as well today. If it was in Dallas, it would be great for us budget-wise. It would be great for us as far as convenience as well. But I don't mind it being in Hummus said they should actually play in Oklahoma City. They have an NBA arena, right? Yes, they do, and it's a pretty central location. I love Oklahoma City. I've been there many times because the women have played it there. I love some of what they have as far as the restaurants and sports bars available. It's a really nice arena. They had average crowds, not great, even when Oklahoma was there. I wouldn't have a problem with it at Oklahoma City.
Well, I wouldn't, but Kansas City's way better.
Why? Because of the restaurants and food?
No, because of the general city and everything around it's better. I mean, Oklahoma City's all right, but
it's not nearly as it's a nice town. I love it. And that's a selfish reason because I love the Mickey Mantle Steakhouse. Period.
Bricktown's fine. I mean, wherever they have the tournament. I mean, if it's the people wanting it because Baylor doesn't win in Kansas City, like that's a lame excuse for why they're not winning tournament games. Like I could care less where it is. I know it is a big deal for a lot of people, but Oklahoma City is fine if you're in Bricktown for like a night or two. But as far as like downtown Oklahoma City, when I've been down there,
right?
No, it's not nice. It's not. It's like a ghost town, and it's just kind of, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just kind of empty.
They have a small area that is very nice. And
Bricktown.
Modern, yes.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, it's not.
You don't go walking the other direction versus, via Bricktown, and maybe an Oklahoma City native knows the spots, but as an average person who's been there now a handful of times over the last 10 years, you pretty much walk from the hotel to Bricktown and to the arena, and that's convenient, but outside of that, not a lot to speak about.
And look, the reason also, and I'll just say this as having been there a lot, is there's a lot of places in Kansas City that you can go. So if you're young and you want to go hang out in the Power and Light right by the arena, the Power and Light's great. If you're my age and you want to go hang out in the Plaza or a couple other different neighborhoods, they're there, they're close, they're good to hang out in, and there's good restaurants there and places to hang out if you're a fan of that's not 25 or younger. Power and Light's fun if you're young. If you're a little older, you go to a little quieter place, but there's great sports bars all over the place. So, and there's lots of different places to stay, where Oklahoma City is just kind of concentrated to that one spot. Kansas City does a great job of hosting it, and they should continue to host it. The people in Kansas City who volunteer to go and work in it love doing it every year. I mean, they look forward to it. So, Kansas City, I'll compare it to their enthusiasm about hosting things like Indianapolis is and Houston is. The city of Houston loves to host stuff. As big and spread out as it is, when they host events, man, no matter what it is, they are happy to bring you to Houston. And they're great at it. So that's why, I'd like to see it stay in Kansas City.
I like it. I like Kansas City, and I miss going there. It's a great place. And they are, listen, if you get it supported, if you have the fan base and all that, and they have the facilities, and they have the two different arenas that can host both the men and women simultaneously. They have plenty of hotel space. The airport's been renovated and expanded as well. 5:36 is the time, 254-339-1122. From No Name, stay in Kansas City. Let's see here. Happy weekend from JG. You too. JG, we appreciate you as well. Bob, on the Deshaun Watson story. He had mentioned baggage with Deshaun Watson. And yes, there's some baggage. No matter what today's ruling or the charges dropped, or they would not pursue them. It's hard enough to be successful in the National Football League. Carrying baggage is no help to you or your teammates. No, there's a circus to that. There will be a media circus wherever he ends up. He's never going to take another snap in Houston. We know that. But wherever he goes, wherever that might be, and if he can play right away or what, there's going to be a media circus surrounding him. But you have that even without some of the stories. I did not realize, Craig, when you mentioned Adam Schefter, speaking of Deshaun Watson, did he really tweet that out?
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't have said anything if he didn't.
Copied and pasted from the agent.
Yeah.
Text to him.
I mean, he's got 30,000 replies, not because he didn't do it. He ain't clear. Yeah,
people are pissed at that. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he's basically the mouthpiece for Deshaun Watson's lawyer, and he's not supposed to be that. He's a reporter. And this is not the first, the second. I mean, what times are we on now where Shefty's been called out for stuff like this? Constantly, basically. And I don't have anything against the guy. I think he does his job pretty well. But he has become kind of a puppet during this Deshaun Watson story, and he's been a puppet at times for the NFL on other stuff, and it's very obvious. And that tweet was like it couldn't have been any clearer that was sent from Deshaun Watson's attorney, basically. I mean, that's why people are reacting the way that they are. If it was a harmless little opinion by him, then people would have just looked at it and been like, okay, whatever. But it's the fact that it's so glaringly obvious, a pro Deshaun Watson tweet and from his camp, that's why it pisses people off.
Yeah, and I'll just juxtapose it to the coverage of the baseball lockout that we just had. This was, and there were several pieces written on this, but this was one of the first times where you got a genuine, both sides of the argument coverage. Because in 1994, what was the national attitude towards that, Smokey? It was, the players are greedy. I can't believe they would do this. How can they strike and take baseball away from me? I would kill to play this, and yada, yada, yada. And yet the richer guys who pay the players are sitting there going, yeah, that's right. They're jerks. Okay. And not to say that either side is completely right or wrong, but there's a reason these disputes happen. It's, some wealthy people arguing, and we got a genuine look at what the players are saying, and the players had avenues to say, this is why we feel this way. So the coverage was different. And you see that, from Adam Schefter, where you're just a shill for everything that's pro NFL, then it kind of makes you look worse, seeing as that, there's avenues to show that there's other sides to the story.
Yeah. Tell me if this is from Adam Schefter or from Adam Schefter's lawyer. This is why Deshaun Watson from the beginning welcomed a police investigation. He felt he knew that the truth would come out, and today a grand jury did not charge him on any of the criminal complaints. Now, that might not seem like that much of a lightning rod post, but this is why Deshaun Watson from the very beginning welcomed a police investigation. The truth would come out, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not, like, just on the surface, not that big of a deal. But when you realize that his tweet before was like, hey, Deshaun Watson's not going to be charged. Okay, cool. That's fine. But then that's clearly a different...
That's an opinion. That's basically giving an opinion.
Exactly.
And it wasn't even his opinion.
And I'm not even that upset by it, but I can see where people are coming from. And I guess I don't even think upset's even the word. What I'm annoyed by is just the fact that he's kind of fallen into of doing this like every couple of months. We're getting a Shefty thing where it's like, dude, what?
Well, one of the other things about his text or tweet was that there's some women's groups that are furious because of the statistics of claiming of any kind of sexual assault or harassment and things like that. And so they're a little bit upset. They might be, I guess, upset with the ruling, but they're upset with the fact he is taking a side on this.
Yeah, look, there's 22 different accusers of Deshaun Watson to some degree. 9 of them were involved in a criminal complaint that got dismissed today. And the criminal complaint being dismissed does not necessarily mean that he wasn't guilty of something. It means that the burden of proof for the grand jury is, which, look, our friend Dan Luss has been tweeting about this for a week and doing a great job saying the burden of proof or the burden to get indictment for grand juries is pretty low. So the fact that this happened means that they probably did not have a lot in their corner when it came to these accusers and as far as evidence and moving forward. But that doesn't mean that didn't happen. But these are really difficult, especially if you read some of the things that happened. It's really going to be difficult to prove without, there's not really physical evidence of a lot of these. It's just, Deshaun Watson is accused of doing some inappropriate things of which there probably would not be physical evidence. So it's he said, she said, and a lot of criminal cases don't want to get into that, especially when it comes to a high-profile person like Deshaun Watson, because then your jury pool is probably pretty tainted with football fans.
You make good points, both of you, across the board on that. From Phil, the Pac-12 network is the problem, and we've mentioned that before.
Yep.
That's one of the things that Kliavkoff thought he could maybe wave a magic wand. And I'm not being negative about Kliavkoff. I'm just thinking he thought he could handle that.
He's trying to. I mean, they can't do anything until there's a new TV deal. So, that's what I was saying earlier was when he had the comments, it was like, yeah, that's our main priority, and it's all about the new TV deal, and that will be our main focus with the new TV deal.
And until they get that, they really can't do anything else, honestly, or they can't maybe get through other things. They could still be working on them. From Matthew, are the women in other NFL cities okay with Watson playing there?
I think it's probably a mixed bag. I think there's probably a lot of people that don't even know about the story that they probably, show up at NFL games. I'm sure there's a ton of others that know all about it, and I'm sure there's a mixture of opinions. I mean, to your question, I don't think we're going to see protests outside of, prior to Deshaun Watson appearances. I mean, maybe a couple people get on local TV doing something like that. But yeah, I'm sure there's, this isn't just a Deshaun Watson thing either. This is for a lot of women out there, another slap in the face after thousands of slaps in the faces when there's been stories like this, and that's why such a big part of the topic is, it's such touchy territory because he said, she said, or she said, or he said, she, whatever it is none of us really know, and we can only go off of what we do know. But what we do know is there are a lot of times that a woman has a real complaint and people just dismiss her because, well, no, this dude's a star football player. He doesn't have to resort to that. Or, oh, well, they're clearly in it together. Well, what do you base that off? Oh, they're just trying to take him down.
Some things that are sickening, like what did you wear that night, or how come you went back to the room with him?
And so I don't think 22 women just randomly got together to decide to go after this star quarterback. I have a hard time believing that, but the legal system did what the legal system does. But you can understand why a lot of women in particular, especially those who have been through something like that before, maybe a similar situation, are really bothered by the reaction of somebody like an Adam Schefter to the news today, because it just totally dismisses what they were complaining about or what they were pursuing with Deshaun Watson, and it erases it, and it's like, okay, everybody celebrate because he can throw the football again for my favorite team, and that's what's got to be frustrating.
Every NFL team that wants Deshaun Watson,
there's about to be a lot of hypocrites.
Celebrated the fact that he's now available to them.
And that's what I'm glad he didn't go to Washington in a way, because I'm glad I don't have to face that moral dilemma of like, oh, geez, like, you know what I mean?
And look, maybe Washington did this even a couple days before Deshaun Watson, knowing that the fact that they haven't released a report and all this stuff.
I'd love to think that.
They can't get in that business, but maybe they don't care.
Well, here's another
Washington.
thing. Some NFL draft boards, there are players who are blacklisted. They're not going to be drafted by certain teams no matter how talented they are or how much they need a position of a player who's talented. And in the case of Deshaun Watson, I think if you say the 32 teams of, let's say, 20 of them, I would say there's probably a handful of franchises that say we're not going to touch that.
Yep, there's some franchises that are lucky that they don't have to because they have quarterbacks already.
Sure,
like, and so they can take themselves out of this discussion easily, going, "Oh, I mean, we didn't even talk about it. We've got we've got Justin Herbert. Oh, look at that. What do you know?" But there are other teams like I'll just say the Cleveland Browns, like that probably shouldn't say anything until they would make a decision on it because he's better than the guy that they have.
Matthew, you asked, am I getting my messages deleted? No, I've read some of them. Is it okay? How come it's okay for him to play in Tampa but not Houston? He can play anywhere. He's just not going to play in Houston because that's his choice.
Yeah, I think that's just that was decided before this even really fully hit the fan. Like him and Houston were kind of. I mean, it appeared like it was going to be a match made in heaven at one point, but then like there came a turning point there, and it all kind of lines up with these accusations as well. But yeah, it's just it feels like it's probably far too toxic at this point, and John McClain's made it very clear the Texans are
well, he didn't even have to come to the facility this year, and they needed him. They could have used him this year if there was any kind of. And the NFL hadn't suspended him yet. I mean, he was just not playing for the Texans this year. That was his choice, Matthew. He did not want to play for the Texans anymore and demanded a trade and said he wasn't going to play for them. He was going to sit out, and he was going to lose money sitting out. And then this happened, and it kind of gave them each a convenient excuse to not play him. But
no, go ahead.
But he does not want to play there anymore.
Missouri, Quanzo Martin out as their head basketball coach. And then in broadcast news, Joe Buck will join Troy Aikman on Monday Night Football. They both, of course, were teammates or partners on Fox for many, many years. And so Joe Buck and Troy Aikman will be a part of ABC's Monday Night Football. And I think, honestly, there are parts of me, sometimes the games aren't very good. Well, you'll have that at a noon or a 3 game or even Sunday Night Football. But the broadcast that ESPN has been like, never could get stabilized with their broadcast team. And that might allow me to have a little bit more interest in watching them because of those two and the stability they bring to the broadcast.
Yeah, I mean, Missouri opening up, that's a big deal just because that's another job out there that, is going to be coveted. Nice big conference program who's had success in the past. And, I saw immediately a tweet, Jerome Tang should be a Missouri candidate. And I'm sure he'll be mentioned for that one and a lot of others as well. But, that's another big job opening up. So add that one to the coaching carousel. And then with Joe Buck, I mean, how could he not be with Aikman, right? They had to stick together. But it is interesting to be talking about announcers like they're baseball free agents, with some of these deals that are apparently being signed. I haven't seen a figure on Joe Buck. We already heard $95 million.
Yeah,
over however many years.
And Aikman's about 100, right?
Aikman's making close to $20 million a year. So yeah, that's pretty wild. But I like that pairing, so that's good that they'll be sticking together.
If you missed the segment with Bob Bodine from Eastman and Bodine Company, the search firm that has come up with Mac Rhodes and Scott Drew, among many, many others, Nikki Collin, and what he's done as a hiring, along with a search firm, coaches, administrators, and much more, plus the fact that he's an author, a speaker, and everything else, that is up now on 365 Sports, Sikkim 365 Radio, and also, of course, the YouTube as well, as we went back and looked at the hiring search for Mac Rhodes. When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5, 555.
Schefter, apologize. This was a poorly worded tweet that deserves a proper response. It was intended to provide insight into the strategy of Watson's legal team from its point of view. So where did it come from again? Intended to provide insight into the strategy of Watson's legal team from its point of view. I should have been clear. As legal experts have explained, a lack of indictment alone does not mean someone is innocent.
What happened?
No kidding, dude.
He copied and pasted, made it look like it was
from
his opinion.
Rusty Hardin.
And then all of a sudden, he now, Rusty Hardin, but
I'm sorry for copy and pasting Rusty Harden's text that was clearly in favor of the Deshaun Watson side of things here. My bad. I'll rewrite my own tweet next time.
When we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5 at 5:55, Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 Bruce Weber replacements. And I changed one of these today. One of these is not going to, I don't think it's going to happen, but it needs to be mentioned. Number 5, Paul Mills from Oral Roberts. Got his team deep in the tournament last year. Is from the Scott Drew tree, knows the Big 12 really well, and is shown that maybe he's ready to take the next step.
You know what? The thing about him, they didn't have a very good year this year, but he lost O'Banner to Texas Tech, and they had some attrition. But what a run they made a year ago. He's from now the Baylor tree. We've seen what that does, the culture, what they do. Why not?
Yeah, I think Paul would be great at Kansas State, and
grit, feisty.
Yeah. This is from the associate head coach files. KT Turner from Oklahoma. Probably ready to take the jump. 16 years of collegiate coaching. He's on Porter Moser's staff. He's been around the Texas, the Big 12, Wichita State. He's a Manhattan, Kansas native. He's somebody that the fans really like there. And again, if you're going the assistant route, maybe this is the guy that you'd maybe want to try. And he's on a staff with Porter Moser, who knows how to maybe win a little quicker than others.
Yeah, I don't have any opinion on KT Turner. I don't know a lot about him. I'm sure he's well qualified, and I have just a little Google search, seen a couple people mention him as a candidate. I've seen a lot of Jerome Tang, a whole lot of Jerome Tang. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of different ways they can go with this. I mean, they could go experienced head coach, they can go young head coach, they could go young assistant, they can go veteran assistant. I mean, or I guess they probably wouldn't go a young assistant route, but I mean, pretty much anything's on the table for them with this search, I would think. And there are a lot of great options. I mean, just the assistant coaches alone, there's a lot of great options.
He's at SMU, KT Turner with SMU a long, long time.
Yeah.
And he's junior college, so he knows the state of Texas, Hutchinson, and Kansas. Two hotbeds when it comes to junior college basketball.
Yeah. Number 3, Matt McMahon from Murray State. He's going to be mentioned for a lot of jobs. Georgia, probably Tennessee, Kansas State. Again, he's at Murray State. Murray State's dominated the Ohio Valley in his 3 years.
The Racers, right?
Yeah, the Racers. So this is a guy you need to look for in Matt McMahon. And Murray State plays a fun style of basketball that his style probably translates well to the Big 12. Don't know a whole lot about him other than Murray State when you see them. But he is an up-and-comer and certainly someone who's mentioned with a lot of other jobs.
Don't know a lot about him. I really don't.
Neither.
I just know Murray State, when you think of basketball schools that are the schools that at times can make a run, they've always been one that's part of that conversation.
I could talk way more about Vince McMahon than Matt McMahon, yeah. But let's see here. Georgia, that's another Georgia. I did see where he was mentioned as a candidate there. And obviously I don't know if these are, this is anything more than SB Nation throwing out names for the sake of it, but it does seem that he's been mentioned, and that's another thing. Georgia's open, Missouri's open. There's a lot of jobs they're going to be out there, so this will be an interesting little coaching carousel.
Yeah, they've had some names at Murray State. Obviously, there's a reason why they've been successful as well. Mickey Cronin was there. Billy Kennedy was there.
Mm-hmm. Steve
Prohm was there. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. All right, number 2, and this is the one I changed. I did have our friend John Gallagher on here, but we might want to transition him into a different job before we throw him into the Big 12. But love John Gallagher. I think he could do it probably anywhere. But Brad Underwood is the pipe dream of the K-State fans. He's a K-State alum. But he is right now at the number 1 seeded team in the Big Ten tournament in Illinois and doing a really good job up there. So
number 1 seed?
Yeah, they're number 1 seed.
Illinois?
I think so, right? In the Big Ten tournament?
I know they got knocked out. Indiana just beat them, yeah.
Yeah, they're number 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament. So Illinois is doing great. I'm not sure why you'd want to leave Illinois and go to Kansas State unless you just really want to coach at your alma mater. But this is what, and Smokey, Brad Underwood.
We did a great job at SFA. Real quick
Oklahoma
stop.
State for a little bit. But Brad Underwood is the dream candidate for K-State right now.
Yeah, I was surprised by Illinois, the number 1 seed. They're 16th in the country when it comes to actual ranking, but tied with Wisconsin for the lead. We had some chat room about this yesterday, Paul, when you were out about Brad Underwood, and I was like, what? I mean, the alum and all that sounds great. Illinois is a big boy school when it comes to basketball. And I'm not saying Kansas State wasn't, it used to be, and can't be. But, man, that would be a huge deal. And if that was his dream job, was it his dream job before he started coaching at Illinois? Now, he's bounced around, so it's not like he hasn't done that before.
I don't want to know what kind of buyout money Kansas State has available. Because he just signed a new deal not that long ago. I don't think it's a significant buyout, but, is that so? I mean, I'm sure that's something they factored in as well. It's like, hey, what kind of buyout money can we come up with? But yeah, I would think you would be a little harder to pull him away than maybe some of these other guys, that aren't as maybe financially secure or locked up as he is. But yeah, this would clearly be like the splash hire. This would be a big splash hire for K-State. And for some, the pull of home is pretty strong. For others, there's a lot of people that don't like going back home. Like we always just assume that people, he's going to go back home. Well, some people tried to get away from there.
Yeah.
I don't think that's him. I'm just saying, like, that's not the automatic layup that we all pretend it to be all the time.
Bill Self's never gone back to Oklahoma State.
Exactly. Exactly.
Like, sometimes you're at a job that makes home seem like it's nice, but like
K-State was great to me, but Illinois is a better job.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to stay at Illinois. And so, I don't know what his desires are.
Hey.
I'm sure he'll have a conversation or two or whatever, but that would be a tremendous hire for K-State if they could pull it off.
Yeah. And number one, old buddy Grant McCaslin.
Yep.
Who I think is ready for this. He is ready for a Big 12 job. And I know today's probably the worst day to put him number one on the list.
No.
Because recency bias, and I guarantee you he would trade 10 punches in the stomach to have that game back today, which was just, a dud. But he is ready. He's got the charisma. He is of all the Scott Drew assistants outside of. No, I think he is. I think he's the one who's most like Scott, like as far as the way he's coaching style and all that. Driscoll's close. But I think Grant and Scott have maybe the most in common. Paul Mills is actually a little bit different than him.
Yeah, no, he is,
and so is Jerome Tang for that matter. And look, Jerome Tang could very well easily be on this list too. It's probably time for him to be a head coach, but he's going to do it when he wants to do it.
Yeah, he's had, again, UTEP and others have been on the doorstep, but not quite there. Okay, that's a good one. I like it. And think about McCaslin's connection to Baylor, and then obviously with Jerome Tang, his connection, the tree of Scott Drew. And Paul Mills, of course, as well. Tennessee by 2 at halftime over Mississippi State in the SEC. That's a game to watch. And so we'll see how it all unfolds over the weekend. Michigan State, Wisconsin have tipped. Michigan State up 6. For Paul Catalina and Craig Smoak. To our sponsors, every one of them that keep us going every day since April the 6th of 2020, as we're closing in soon on 500 shows, believe it or not. For Emery Winter and Armstrong Sims, I'm David Smoak. Have a great weekend. Thank you for the chat, the text, the calls, and for always being a part of what we do. We appreciate you. Have a great weekend. Good night.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.